I'm starting the stream to YouTube, just FYI.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Marco.
Good
Can
morning.
you make, good morning, can you make my Bitmoji icon a co-host so I could share the screen?
Meaning the other one?
Yeah, the one that's in the Met outfit. Thank you.
Welcome.
Marco, I just realized that it starts at 9:30. I thought it was at 9. I am sorry.
No, but I always started earlier because to start the streaming and everything.
Right. I can
But
join in a
step
little
away.
bit.
Yeah, step away.
I'm
and come
gonna
back.
step out, but I didn't want to ask you about more details about what you thought about the legislative breakfast because I thought everyone was here and I'm on my phone and I'm driving. So, but I'll send you an email. Just I'm
Cool.
curious to know what you
Okay,
thought.
or we can chat at the phone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll join at 9:30 then.
Okay. See you in
See
a
you
bit.
soon. Bye.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Marco and Jimmy, I think I have a request to send this out again because I don't think people, they see that title says heat advisory or whatever title. Maybe you should send it out and say this is the link for today's meeting. Just requesting.
I not quite understand what you're saying.
Everybody doesn't open every email all the time. Sometimes we open emails when it specifically says something for what we're looking for. So as I'm looking for the link for today's meeting, I did not know it was in a subject called Across the City Part 1. If you can resend it out to everyone and just say this is the link for our meeting today.
No, that's the only way we could have sent it out because CPAC Google is having problems. So I just replied to the Google group because I couldn't use CPAC Google Mail. There's a problem there.
Well,
Oh,
at
wow,
least
okay, don't worry, don't worry.
or at least
take care of
change,
it.
or at least to change the subject matter.
Yeah, okay, I could do that.
Okay, thanks.
Because okay.
All right, thank you.
Shirley, you're gonna do it? You're gonna take care of it?
Yeah. So I'll do it. I should have thought of that. But thank you, Dr. Cody.
Good morning, everyone. Can we rename ourselves to include the district? And if it's from another organization, maybe also just include that name, just so I can see who everybody is.
Yes, Madam Recording Secretary. Thanks for the reminder.
I know it's hard. I have to keep remembering to put different things in depending on what meeting I go to. So
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, Marco, I logged into two devices by accident. I took one off.
It's all right.
Hi, Marco. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm okay, thanks.
Right, we're gonna get this meeting started in about a minute.
Good morning, Marco.
Good morning.
How are
It is 9:30, so in fact it's 9:31.
Good
So
morning.
Yeah, good
we're
morning.
gonna start this meeting. Just give me 1 second. 1 second.
Hey, honey.
So let's start with the roll call. Marco Battistero, District 1, that's me, I'm here. Leonard, I don't see him yet here. I'm sure he's gonna join later. Jimmy, I know you're here, how are you doing? And Rashida, District 4, I know you're here as well.
Good morning, Marco. Morning.
Aisha, you were here before everybody else. How are you? District 5. District 6, Luis? Yeah,
Yes,
you're
good morning,
right there.
Marco. This is Louis.
Yeah. Great. District 7 is here. I don't see her.
Oh, Marco, I'm here. I'm sorry. I just got on District 2.
I knew you were coming.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Marco. Appreciate it. Well, congratulations, Marco.
About what?
Weren't you elected? I thought you were elected CC.
Oh, maybe I couldn't join that meeting.
Oh,
Yep, thank you.
Marco, they did announce you. You're definitely on CC1. Okay?
Yes, you are, Marco.
District 9. Maybe not yet. District 10, I think I saw you, but maybe not.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Oh,
Yes, Maria Villalobos.
Okay, yes, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
How are you?
It's okay. Good. Thank you.
And the 11, Miriam, are you here?
Good morning.
Yeah, you're there. How are you doing? 12, Doris. I don't see her. She's probably gonna join maybe a little bit later. Celia, I just saw you.
I'm here.
District 13. District 14, we have a new rep. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, great. I'm glad you joined our meeting. District 15, Justin. I don't see him, but okay, he might come later. 16. Veronica, District 17.
Good morning.
Good morning. Lubania, District 18. Not yet. And Telman, 19. No, I don't see you. I see you, Janine. District
Morning,
20, how
Marco.
are you?
Good. How are you, my dear?
All right. And I'm pretty sure I saw Randy, District 21. That's
I'm here,
right.
Marco. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And I believe I saw Sabine as well.
I'm here. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. And I saw Josh, 23.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Matty, 24.
Good morning.
Francis, District 25. Oh, yeah, there you are.
Good morning.
And Cecilia, among the first to join the meeting. District 26.
Good morning again.
27, Lisa. I don't see her. Jessica, I know you're here. How are you doing? District 28. 29, Kamaria, are you here?
Present here.
Oh, there you are. How are you?
Yes, I'm well, thank you.
Anna, District 30. Not see her right now. We don't have a rep for District 31 yet. And Jazzy, I know I saw you.
Good morning.
32. Good morning. Andrea, 75. I think you're here, right?
Marco.
Yeah. How you doing? Cecilia, Brooklyn High Schools.
Good morning, Marco. Good morning,
morning.
CPAC.
And Lourdes, I know I saw you earlier. Yeah. That's Bronx High School, Jackie, Manhattan High School. I also saw you earlier.
Morning, everybody.
And Shirley, I know you're here as well from
Good
Queens High
morning,
School.
everyone.
Is Aaron here from Staten Island High School? No. Okay, so that's it for the roll call, and Marie is here, our parliamentarian. In fact, Marie, do you want to go quickly through the meeting procedures and things like that? Just quickly.
Yeah, sure. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Second. Because I'm on two devices, so I'm echoing a bit.
So we're just gonna wait 1 minute for Marie to switch device. I caught you off guard, huh?
And you thought I should actually know this by heart, which I do, but you actually did. Yeah. Okay, our CPAC meeting procedures and rules. Sorry, I'm just having issue because I'm echoing and I hate hearing myself doing this. Our CPAC meeting procedures and rules is that by first order of business to speak and to ask questions goes first to the executive board and then followed by CPAC voting members. And then third is that it would go to members of the general public and guests if acknowledged by the co-chairs. And we ask that you also keep your questions and answers to 2 minutes. And that time allotted will be monitored by myself as well as the co-chairs. In addition to that, if you have not been called to speak on an agenda item, this is an attempt at fairness. It's not exclusion. It's just we want to make sure that we hear from the majority of our members given an opportunity to speak. All right.
Cool. Great, thank you. I think in terms of CPAC business, the only thing we have are the minutes from last meeting. Is that correct, or do we have something else?
I think there was a letter that was supposed to be approved last time or reviewed, and we did. We only did 2 out of the 3.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
No, I think at the end we were talking about it, and then at the end we approved them all actually last time.
We actually did as is, although there was one proposal to amend, but the document cannot be amended unless it actually goes back to the committee that worked on it for consensus before making a live amendment to the existing document. But Mr. Chair, you did go ahead and approve as is.
Right.
My hand is up. May I be recognized, please?
Sure, what's up?
Yes,
Jackie?
it is the DLT document from the high school committee that needs to be approved. It was sent actually 2 months ago. It was sent in the end of April, and we forgot to approve it or vote on it last month, and you should have a copy of it. It was sent to the executive board
Which document is that? Well, anyway, let's go with the minutes. In the meantime, Jackie, if you can send me the document right now,
All right.
I can have a look and see if
I don't know what Nancy forwarded to you, but I'll try to forward the latest
Are you sure
document
we
that I
didn't
have.
approve it? Okay, but anyway, send it to me and we will check whether it was
All right.
approved or not.
Shirley, do you have it?
In the meantime, guys, we have the minutes.
But that's the one I was talking about. Yes.
Oh, okay. So that was not approved. I'm pretty sure we approved the last meeting.
No, we only did 2 of the 3.
Okay. All right. So then we can, although I don't know everybody has it, but we can maybe put it at the end of the meeting so that people have a chance to review it before we approve it. Meanwhile, meeting minutes. I'm gonna share my screen one moment to put it on the screen. You guys already received it, but just in case, and if there is anything that needs to be amended. Can you see it, or is too small maybe?
You want me to share mine?
No, it's
but
fine.
yes, I can see it. We can see it.
Okay, just because sometimes if I put it vertical, it's hard to see.
But that's not the minutes. Yeah.
That's not the minutes, Marco.
It's not the minutes? What?
Well, it's not the one that was sent out. It's not on the same letterhead. That's
it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. The text is what we need to approve. So I don't hear any amendments. Is there anybody that wants to have an amendment? Going once, going twice? All right, then.
Congratulations.
Marco, I motion to approve the minutes. Cecilia Leon.
Cool. Any second?
Second.
Second.
Cool. Unless anybody is against it, we're just gonna adopt it. No need to go for a roll call. Cool. So the minutes are adopted. Next on our agenda, we have A660 bridge team. Shirley and Randy, you want to take it on?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We have limited time, so we're going to jump right into it. These are the proposed changes to the A660. And I would like to say that in the beginning, if you don't get to state a comment, questions, or your concerns or suggestions at this meeting, just please email CPAC and the Google group, and we can have a discussion if you don't get to speak. So
Shirley, maybe go back with just one step. So can you explain what you and Randy have been part of, maybe before we actually look at the document?
Okay, so Randy and I was on the bridge team where this bridge team is laser focused on virtual meetings and updating the financials of the PAPTAs and President's Councils. This is what the focus of our proposed changes, and then another team or later on other sections of the A660 will be addressed. So we have 20 proposed changes. So the first one is PAPTA membership, determining parent eligibility changes we incorporated in the document. And when we say that, we're including 3K pre-K of and those who are enrolled in New York City public schools. Section 8 and 9, the term of a parent for purpose of this regulation, the rights and responsibilities of parent associations and PTAs, expanded to include early childhood grades to high school grades. The term office refers to the elected position on the executive board of a PAPTA or a President's Council. The term mandatory officers or office refers to the president, recording secretary, and treasurer of a PAPTA or president's council. Additional officers' position may be specified in the bylaws. The term VRP refers to virtual remote platform, an online live video conference application that allows parties or persons to conduct meetings. The term hybrid or blended format refers to a meeting that is held in person and online simultaneously, not two separate meetings.
Shirley, sorry if I interrupt you. Maybe rather than reading it, because we can actually just send it to the people, can you just explain us what are the proposed changes? Just give us like a basic understanding of what it is that we're basically, the issue, if I understand it correctly, is that the virtual meeting were temporarily allowed, and now we're actually including them in the,
Yes,
the regulations.
Yes,
right?
in the bylaws, but we want to get feedback, so that's why we're going by the changes. So
Okay, so go ahead. Sorry to
okay.
interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna go back and do a summary, but I want them to at least see what the changes are real quick. PAPTA includes social media platforms as a means of communication with the members. The bylaws must indicate how they were, how and where they will host meetings of the association, either in person or on the virtual remote platform. PAPTA should determine when, where, and how it will conduct its monthly general membership meeting and executive board meetings in person or on a virtual platform, and that includes hybrid. PAPTA board members must determine where and when the executive board will meet in person or virtual remote platform. Quorum for hybrid blended meeting format defines as 2 members of the executive board in attendance on school premises and 6 members from the general membership in either in person or on a remote platform. It is advised that the PAPTAs in the virtual remote platform and the hybrid blended meeting be recorded. PAPTA president's councils may utilize and access bank accounts through online portals provided by the banking institution. PAPTA president's councils may make payments to vendors through online payment system of the bank. PAPTA president's council may utilize a bank debit card to pay for goods, services to a vendor who will not accept check. It's prohibited against the use of automated ATM machines. It's prohibited to use those cards to remove funds, cash in an automated teller machine, we know as ATMs, and has been modified to limit the use of these cards for payments to vendors only when they only withdrawal slips remain prohibited. Okay, so I'm gonna go back real quick. So we're gonna go back to the virtual platform. So the PAPTA, if the proposed changes are approved, will have a choice of doing it in person, remotely, virtually, or a hybrid blend. This has to be discussed with the general membership, and y'all will decide how the monthly meetings will be. And it doesn't have to be all in person, all in virtual. Y'all can do a combination. That's the summary of the virtual platform. If you choose the hybrid blend, 2 of the executive board has to be in person on the school premises, and everybody else can be either in person or on the virtual platform. I'm going to go back to the financials.
What is the thinking on that requirement? I'm kind of trying to understand the two in-person executives.
Okay, so Randy, you want to talk? I see you raise your hand. You want to explain that part? Go ahead.
Sure. So the reason why for the hybrid model, we were suggesting having 2 executive board members in the building is because if you have the one, let's say it's the president giving the meeting in person, and people are coming in asking questions, and you choose to do the hybrid model, you would need someone there to have a laptop or something to interact with the Zoom call or what platform you're using to the person giving the meeting. Otherwise, how would the person giving the meeting be able to see what's going on the platform, answer questions, address concerns? So 2 people should be in the building, it doesn't necessarily say who. It could be anyone. It's just 2 executive board members. It's like, would be best.
I mean, that seems like we're putting an extra quorum requirement out there to deliver a higher quality meeting. And that's not usually what we use quorum requirements for.
Well,
Quorum requirements are made, there to make sure we don't, that a minority doesn't sneak something through that the majority is not aware of.
Well, it's the same 2-person requirement at any meeting. Right now, if we were in person, we would have to have 2 executive board members to make quorum in the building. So if it's on a virtual platform, it's the same 2 people on a platform. And if it's a hybrid model, which is merging both meetings together as one, it's the same 2.
Well, but one of those could be virtual, right? I mean, I guess I understand the point behind it, and I don't disagree in terms of running a higher quality meeting. You typically want to have more hands involved.
It's just for the interaction and to make sure that the people that are on the virtual call have the same information and they're getting their voices heard as well. If you're giving the meeting and there's, the laptop on the side, you're giving the meeting and you're not paying attention to what's going on over there, you could miss something, their voices aren't being heard. You want everyone to have like equal say and equal voices heard.
And I will add that you have a choice. You choose in person, virtual, or hybrid. You don't have to do the hybrid. So you have different choices that will best suit your association or president's council.
I'm not disagreeing with the goal. I'm just disagreeing with sort of the approach to the goal, right? If we want to run a high quality hybrid meeting, then let's put requirements for high quality hybrid meetings in there and not quorum requirements, right?
Well, the quorum is to ensure high quality meetings because so the board can choose which 2 is going in person. So it won't always automatically be the president. The president is conducting, usually is the one who is hosting or chairing the meeting. So when you're chairing the meeting, it's very difficult for you to be looking at the chat. So
agree 100%. Agree 100% with the goal, right? What I'm saying is quorum requirements are typically there to prevent a minority from sneaking something past a majority, right? That's the typical function. Using a quorum requirement to deliver a high quality meeting is usually not the right thing. Let's specify in a hybrid meeting model, we have these expectations for how they're run, right?
We understand. So we brought that back. So, that was discussed, and this is what will end up.
Sure.
The points
and I'm happy to discuss offline too, right? I don't want to hold up everybody.
Okay. The points that you brought up, I'm the one who brought that up, but this is what the team agreed to. So
okay.
And so it's noted.
Well, we could, but hold on a second, Shirley. We could actually decide here at CPAC to push back and say we would like that change, right? If we so decide. My fear in increasing quorum requirements.
We didn't increase the quorum requirements. Let's make that clear. It's
only in complicating quorum requirements. Then, if you,
it's the same 2. It's the same 2 in person, the same 2 virtually, and the same 2 for the hybrid. So it's still the same 2. Have you ever had a meeting and try to put out refreshments and put out things and make sure that everybody gets the paperwork, and then look at a meeting on virtual and give the meeting in person? How would you expect one person to do that?
Absolutely agree. But we also don't have a requirement in A660 that says you must have an executive board officer show up and put out refreshments, right? I mean, this is kind of that same level of absurdity. And so that's the only reason I'm sort of pointing that out, is that complicating quorum requirements and saying they both have to be in the room versus, one remote and one local, right? I mean, obviously the executive board needs to show up and meet the minimum quorum requirements for a meeting, but whether they show up remote or local shouldn't matter as long as we ensure a high quality meeting.
I agree, but you could also put a hardship on a PTA that now everyone decides, since only one person has to be in the building for the hybrid, the rest of the board is going to stay online, and that one person is the person that's always doing it all. And how is that, okay.
Once again, I understand. Okay. Like, the goals are admirable. I think the tool is wrong.
Okay, guys,
So,
we
and I'm
actually
happy to
have a
take
few
this
hands
offline.
raised. Let's see what other
Mr.
people have
Chair.
to say as well.
Yes,
Point of
but
order, point of order, Mr. Chair.
yeah,
We'll
yes,
just
and we
have to remind everyone to raise their hand in that order to speak. We have 3 people that have raised their hand. Dr. Cody have been patiently waiting. So I was reminded of that order.
Actually,
Okay,
maybe
we have
Jackie was actually from before. Jackie, do you have something to
No,
say about this issue?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Oh,
I
okay,
do.
sorry. I thought that was
And I'll try
from
to be
before.
really quick about it, because I have no idea, no way to email everyone. I've been removed from the Google group for whatever reason and told not to email anybody. So I have no way of knowing how to share this information, but I have recommendations really quick. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. So please help me. Move summary of changes, all these summaries of changes below the actual regulations, because it's very distracting. That's recommendation number 1. Number 2, I have 4 quick ones. Number 2, CPAC should be a defined term. You should add CPAC as a defined term in these regulations. Also, in Article 1, Section C3, I recommend to add that PA, PTAs, and PTOs, add PTOs, receive the email addresses of parents within their schools. I can go into detail about it offline, and that parents can opt out of their email addresses being sent to the PA, PTA, or PTOs of their school. Like I said, I can elaborate on that offline. These are, and my 4th recommendation is to please change the word training to professional development in Article 1, Section G 3, and all throughout the regs everywhere. Just get rid of that word training and change it to professional development. Unless you're talking about animals, we could train animals. So I'll put those in the chat, and if you need further deliberation or explanation,
yeah, I'm not going to
open
interrupt
to
you.
it.
Please email those changes. But again, I want to remind everyone, we're only concentrating on virtual meetings and financials. Another team will work on that. So please email other suggestions, which we said prior, to CPAC, and we'll forward those suggestions. But we are here specifically for virtual meetings and financials. Marie,
Thank you. Put the email in the chat, because I have no idea. I've been rudely removed and told not to email people. So
okay, I will do that. I will do that when we're done. Marie, real quick, can we take one more, because we need to stay on schedule? Who's the next
Angela,
one?
go ahead.
Angela Torres, District 8.
Hi, how are you? So my thought is, which I think would resolve part of this issue, why don't we have it where one person is responsible for the online component, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an executive board member. I want to give an example. So let's say, for example, I'm doing my meeting and there's a snowstorm and no other executive board member has come. And so I'm stuck now in a situation, right? But I do have other people, who are there who could help me if I need help with managing the online and running the meeting for whoever was able to make it on time. That way there's no change to quorum requirements, but at the same time, it's considering not placing undue burden on the person that is the PTA president who's running the meeting. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. And guess what? That was brought up as well. So this is the team as a whole collectively. This is the proposed changes. And that's an excellent point. And that was also brought up as well. So we'll bring it back again and re-emphasize and see what the team says. Thank you very, very much for that. And at this time, I will email these proposed changes so you can see it clearly. And then you email info cpacnyc@gmail.com. And I'm gonna return the floor back to Marco.
Cool, great. Josh, you want to go quickly with something?
Yeah, just one question. I don't see any reference to, the ability to take credit cards, Square, PayPal, et cetera. Is that considered in the new regulations? It does have online banking, which is phenomenal, but I know we have a fair number of PTAs that are doing credit cards, and I'd love to have them on sort of more stable ground in terms of A660 guidance.
Under my understanding, only those who are 501(c) are able to do credit cards, right? Credit cards are not in the Chancellor's regs. And that is the purpose of the debit card. You use your funds to use it as a credit card.
Shirley, that's incorrect. In reality, you can accept payment by credit card or by PayPal, but anything you want already. What you cannot do
No,
is
that's
to
what I'm
use a
saying.
credit card. Hold on.
Credit card.
What you cannot do is use a credit card to make payments, right? So
yeah,
you
but
can
most
already accept
PAPTAs
payments.
don't have credit cards because that has to be approved by the membership.
Accept credit
accept
cards.
payments. You can already do that.
Accept credit, of course, yes. You can receive the payments in any matter, as long as it's going straight into the account.
Can we get that in A660 in one of the proposed changes?
I think
a
it's
lot
already
of schools
there.
are doing
You can already do that.
Yes, it's part of the online. Yes, it's already also in the virtual guidelines. As long as you are not using the credit card to pay stuff, but you can receive payments with a credit card.
So it's in the proposed changes.
No, it's always been the case. It was already the case before.
Yes.
Okay. It's not a change. It's something that was already the case. Sorry, Veronica, we need to move on unless you have a 30-second thing.
Sure. I heard the 501(c)(3), and I just need a little clarity on that because I know as a 501(c), you have to have an executive board. And my question would be, how is that maintained if we have an election every year? Who really manage that? Because every year we might have a new president or a new board. How does that 501(c) manage with the changes?
Okay, it's gonna take too long to answer that, Veronica. Sorry, we can talk about it at a different moment or offline to discuss that. Yeah. So next on our agenda we have Kevin Moran. Is Kevin here?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, good morning, everyone. And I just want to thank everyone for the invite today to talk to you a little bit about operations, but more importantly, make myself available to you in a real personal way. And so you could have access to my email. I'm kmoran2@schools.nyc.gov. My BlackBerry phone number or iPhone is 917-755-7339. I think what I'll talk to you today about is about state of play, where we are, where we've been, the guidance. But I know and respect and honor your work in the field in supporting schools and families. And so I know they're very specific instances. And when we do town halls and Zooms, I think we sometimes miss those very pointed questions that are very much on top of mind for you that may not be best socialized in an environment in a town hall setting with 912 people on a call or something of that nature. So just from the start, I want to thank you for your role in the organization and the work that you do on behalf of our families. It's very much important, and I want you to feel you have a connection to the operational team. By way of background, if you're not aware, I'm a former DOE teacher. I've been in the system for 24 years and have supported operations for quite some time, and enjoy the role supporting our school food operations, school bus transportation, our space planning team, our building facilities, emergency planning, and just general operations, things that don't necessarily fit neatly in one area or the other. For an example, vaccines. I was at a vaccination site this morning at one of our schools. And so operationally, we're out there in the field. And I think top of mind is where we are. And so I don't know if it's easy to do a quick overview and turn it to questions, because I could just give you what's in, for the formatting. I figure it's probably easier just to give top lines and then open it up for questions, considering time, if that's the best approach. And so where we are for health and safety right now with the guidance for our schools is we're going to continue wearing masks. We're going to continue requiring pre-screening and folks staying home when sick. We'll continue the situation room and monitoring cases to make sure these are handled expeditiously and safely. We will continue with the social distancing guidance as it is now, the 3 feet and when masked and eating at 6 feet. And we'll continue to encourage folks to stay home when sick. I think the pre-screening in the morning does that. Foundationally, when we look at all of the health and safety measures we put in place around cleaning and ventilation, foundationally what we need to do in the pandemic and have done successfully is reduce infectious aerosols within classroom and building environments. And we do that in a layered approach. Mentioned staying home when sick, mentioned masks. Masks have proven to be the #1 effective intervention around making sure infectious aerosols, when an asymptomatic individual is in a school, introduced into the environment, it helps contain that. And in instances where that's not the case, we do focus on ventilation. We spent millions of dollars in repairs on ventilation systems and windows to introduce pressure and monitoring. From the beginning, from the very, very beginning, we knew ventilation was an area of concern and an area of growth for our building. And so every single exhaust fan to remove air from classroom spaces where CO2, if you will, when people exhale, where infectious aerosols could be found, will remove safely from the classroom and go out through an exhaust, through the roof. And then ultimately in HVAC systems, very, very new models, putting in MERV 13 filtration systems, which are basically retrofitting our existing units and putting on the best filters. And we were very successful in working with our friends at the USP and an outside consultant, Inspire, helping us procure those because those were very, very, very much in demand. So we're very happy to have those. Supplementing those systems, we introduced indoor air purifiers, HEPA-rated air purifiers in every classroom to make sure there was a supplement to that system. We also added this spring a second air purifier to that, so each classroom will have 2 to encourage a supplemental support there. Additionally, we procured on our window units for our air conditioning units when it gets warmer, is to have a MERV 13 specially outfitted filter for our air conditioning window units. So there's many, many layers around our systems, but top of bottom line is making sure we're monitoring it and it's repaired and functioning. Our custodians have CO2 readers that they do temperature, they do humidity, they do VOCs, these air quality readers are very good, but primarily we use them for the CO2 to detect the presence of CO2 in a classroom. And for folks to understand if there's a lot of CO2, it means the air is not being exhausted, right? And so we monitor that daily. Also our anemometers, use of anemometers measure airflow. Most of our buildings built post-1918 pandemic have this in mind, and buildings were built in this way. So we have multiple layers in terms of fresh air intake into the classroom through mechanical means, exhausting through mechanical means, and fresh air through windows. And so really every day we're walking buildings. In terms of transparency in our approach, we had a third-party independent engineer help us in the summer walk every single space, every occupied space in every school. And we posted those results online publicly, to which they are there today and are updated in real time. If the system breaks and there's a ventilation issue, we don't use that space. And if it needs to be repaired, we expedite the repair. So very fortunate in terms of where we've been there. We're certainly encouraging school staff to get vaccinated, and that vaccinating is very public, the efforts there, and our numbers are real good. We've been working with schools on opportunities with the expansion of the Pfizer vaccine for 12 and up, to have parents avail that option as well, should they choose. And so from a health and safety expert lens, we work with our health experts every day. I have access directly to our city doctors and always helping us with the guidance, interpreting the guidance, how we implement the guidance, and how we follow up to make sure we're informing the guidance. We recently published a pediatric study, and Dr. Jay Varma had shared it, and I could share it with this group if helpful, about the real-time New York City environment. I would say top line, we've tested over 1 million individuals this year and presented a less than 1% positivity rate, something that we're real proud of. And we talk about the gold standard for health and safety. This is actual. This is not a theory or in a text somewhere. This is what occurred in the city of New York. And so we're very pleased with that, but also looking at ways to improve daily. From a food perspective, our team rallies and served over 100 million meals in the pandemic, and so stood up early in March what we needed to do to make sure we were feeding families, and so we had our grab and go options. We brought students back. We had grab and go options and we're delivering to classrooms. We'll continue to do the serving of meals in our schools through the summer meals program. We're real excited about that. And then when we open in the fall, we're looking at now, based upon recent CDC guidance and surface spread, to use our cafeterias with greater frequency and flexibility. So we'll be working with schools on guidance. From a school transportation lens, our yellow buses continue to run. They were monitored actively through our situation room. We maintain the social distancing on our busing. We make sure the ventilation units are operable. The windows open, the roof hatches are open. Masks are provided. For close contact, we have enhanced PPE where we could have face shields for close contact for students with additional needs, gloves, KN95 masks, things of that nature, extra hand sanitizer, and things that our bus companies are fully equipped. And the work around GPS continues, where while we will put in like every other contract, put in a bit of a delay with procurement and work through the pandemic, back on track there. So excited about the advancements we're doing there. And so with food and facilities, areas are our main focus of recent. We're also focusing on space planning and how we utilize buildings in accordance with the guidance, and so supporting schools and how best to program and operate and get ready for September. So a lot of excitement about launching our Summer Rising program, and that our food programs will be up and running, our buses will be up and running, and all support to be in place at our buildings with enhanced PPE and a 30-day supply. And I'm visiting schools daily, and we're promoting vaccines to the extent possible and directing our students and staff accordingly. So that's a high-level overview. I know I'm on time for about another 15 minutes. What I would say is please email me. I work very closely with our executive superintendents, in support of our principals, and so our operational team is ready to react. We've been spending a lot of time of recent working with our kitchen staff and making sure air conditioning is in place for those workers that endure the hot temperatures within the kitchen in the summer months. But there are many operational issues that I think are top of mind for you. So I wanted you to have my email and my cell. You can text me anytime. And those I think are kind of solving in the real time are the best approaches. So, but open to any questions you may have here as it relates to school operations.
Okay, great. Thank you, Moran. So Jessica, go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. I actually have two questions. One is that my school is a smaller school, and we tend to have issues keeping a custodian because evidently you get paid more at larger schools, which I understand, but we have a hard time keeping a head custodian. And my second question is that if your school has been chosen for a Summer Rising program and you still need AC and ventilation, there may be AC issues. Is that also being looked at, and will that be fixed before the program begins?
So schools that were selected as Summer Rising were contemplated first on the capacity, what we intend on using the building for, and what was that air conditioning. That was top of mind. We looked at proximity, we looked at safety utilization, we looked at transportation options, we looked at everything, and AC was top of mind. So if you text me your site specific, what I could do is have a staff member there visit, do a readout, check the spaces, utilize spaces, the air conditioning. We are pushing at public assembly spaces a lot of recent in terms of the large spaces. A little more complicated to do a very large space like an auditorium or cafeteria, where window units aren't applicable. We have to do some other work, and it's a little bit more expensive, but definitely something we're focused on and committed to doing. And so I will assess that site for summer air conditioning, but was picked hopefully to have enough air conditioning units to supplement the program, and that the summer AC project is more kind of tightly bundled with the AC for All initiative. So in time, all classrooms will be air conditioned, and I'll get you a timeline for this specific school. As it relates to custodian, you're right. There are reasons behind when folks select a school, some being square footage, is what you pointed to. But what I'd like to do is maybe get this school specifically where we are around consistency and stability in title, and so you have a more consistent presence at the building so that there aren't changes often. I understand your need for consistency there, and I'll look into it. But this is one of those moments where I'd like to know more about the school and know more about the history and get back to you. So if you email me or text me just the school, I'll follow up with you right away.
Cool. Matty?
sorry, I'm taking this from the car. Regarding the tests that are being done for ventilation and so forth, will reports be provided to each community regarding what kind of ventilation tests are being done in terms of like measurement of airflows and those results? Because when I asked last year, I was told that CFMs were not being measured, which meant that airflow wasn't being measured. And when you're talking about bringing back all the kids into the, into schools, that poses an even greater risk.
Yeah, that's a great question. Around the factoring of CFM and looking at the actual system, what we do, ventilation is not the only layered or single approach here, right? We do multiple measures, and the number one being keeping individuals with infectious aerosols out of a space. And then we encourage that actually through vaccination as well. But if the system, and I'd like to go to the school, we post every single occupied space online and what the system is it operational or not, needs repair or not present, right? If it's not present, we don't use the space. And so I would go very specifically to the school and give you a readout of the school. Custodians have CO2 readers, which has been great. Look, and this isn't me telling you theory, right? We've had less than 1%, less than a percentage point of infection within our schools. That is incredible data. And so our approach did work. Windows are our favored approach here because they introduce fresh air and they alleviate this that people call bioburden from the space, right? So when our systems, all our school buildings have the top-bottom approach where we're able to, in the winter, this actually was counterintuitive in many ways. People felt like it was going to be cold in classrooms. It actually encouraged greater CFMs, right? The air exchanges, the warmer we raised the boiler, the hotter the air was, the hotter the air went out on the top of the window where fresh, cool air came in on the bottom. So we had greater turnover in CFMs, far exceeding any standard. So for this one, we can even go with you if you felt comfortable with a custodian and their director with an anemometer and show readings. We spent a lot of time at Martin Luther King High School, and there's a system where it's completely closed and the windows to the outside are not in the classrooms, right? And so it's completely maintained HVAC system. So we did a lot of the anemometer readings, shared with parents, PTAs, elected officials, did walkthroughs, and really proved out, look, this is what this is. And we brought in outside consultants. It was a really great project and brought in the best technology to support that classroom. And also added those supplements, right? We're gonna have 2 air purifiers in every classroom to really put another layer on it. And for those with window units, that'll be present too. So if you text me, I'll get you with a director or deputy director, can walk with your principal and your custodian and walk and talk. That's part of the work for us, right? Is to not only be transparent and put results, but talk through exactly what it is we're doing and what happens in that unique space, classroom 202, that people have questions about. And partnered, I would offer, if you don't have it, I could potentially drop it in the chat later, is the UST video on ventilation. We shared that even with Chicago in the early, when we started this, and we did a video and multiple videos with our folks on the roof and showing systems and explaining the systems and measuring in real time. So be happy to get out there with some staff with you and walk the building. It'd be great. So thank you, Mary.
All right, great. Okay, thank you. Can you just drop your information in the chat because I didn't have a chance to write it down. So that I would really appreciate that. Cool. Thank you.
I'll do that now.
Thanks.
And Jackie, go ahead and ask your question in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, CEO Moran. I appreciate you. I see you. I know what you're doing. I see you. Believe me. I just so you know, this is being live streamed. Okay. And I appreciate you giving us your information. So putting it in the chat is the right thing because it is being live streamed. Cool. So my question is not necessarily for you, but I believe you're the right person to connect me to who can help. Although Manhattan High School parent leaders raise this issue, I want to know who can work with us from a citywide perspective to correct this. It's in regards to Zoom recordings when they upload access onto PTA websites and if it can last longer. There is another reason why CPAC, well, for example, many PTAs were having technical difficulties logging in because there is a specific web address that allows schools.nyc.gov email addresses to access their accounts. Like you just can't go to a regular thing. It has to start with ADFS or whatever. One would not know this unless we were all communicating with one another. Meanwhile, is there a way to upgrade the ability to save Zoom recordings indefinitely? So who would I be able to communicate with to resolve that from a citywide aspect?
Absolutely. If you email me that specifically, I will put it in the hands of the head of our DIT department. That's not something I'm quite familiar with. I do know the idea of what you're talking about. I could definitely put it in the right hands to you. I just don't know off the top of mind who exactly, but I'll send it to the top
right.
of
DIT is not really communicating with us. So if you can help facilitate that, that is great.
I promise
Thank
to do
you.
that. You bet.
Thanks.
Okay, I see there were maybe a couple of questions in the chat that were not asked, or maybe they were all asked. I'm not sure. So any more questions, guys?
Yeah.
Oh,
Please go ahead.
I did ask because there are some schools that don't have air conditioning in lunchrooms. And so what would, for those schools that are doing summer rising, but also moving forward, how would these schools get air conditioning inside the lunchrooms?
Yeah, one of the things I can tell you, thank you for the question. I know for an example, for a fact, we're doing 30 kitchens at present. I'll be done by June 30th with 30 new kitchens for our food workers, and that'll hopefully get out into the assembly spaces as well. But there are spaces that are quite large, and the difference in a public assembly space around window units and these split units is cost. But I'm doing the analysis daily, and we're looking to advance projects daily. So if you text me to school, I think it's best to say, hey, here's where we are on this timeline in very real time, what we can do for this school. With the end in mind, we'd like to air condition as many spaces in every school building as possible. So know that. Some schools require a little more work. I just gotta be real candid. Some schools require some work in Con Ed to bring in additional service to our building. Some require a little internal work, and some require funding and split units, which are a little bit more costly than a window unit that you can get a little, less 5,000 installation, that kind of thing. It's a little cheaper. But we'd definitely like to do the public assembly spaces. So if you text me with school, I'll be right on it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Josh, then Sabina.
Sure. Two things for me. First, I mean, I want to recognize the lower than 1% transmission rate. I mean, I know it all kind of came together at the last minute in September, but I do want to recognize and thank all the DOE staff that were involved in an incredibly successful school year. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we were able to achieve. So thank you for that. And I recognize it, and I hope others do too. The second thing I just wanted to ask, I mean, what sort of training are custodians getting? I know HVAC stuff is incredibly complex and hard to see. And I know we're getting tools to our custodians, but are we getting them the sort of training to understand what those tools mean and what to do about the results?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of technical requirements to be a custodial engineer and high pressure boilers and understanding the system. But you're right, in a COVID environment, it's a bit different than a traditional system. The predominance of our focus is getting a system as designed to function at its peak capacity, right? And so understanding that every single repair is made, every fan is operable and pulling the air or introducing the air. So we do have our deputy directors of facilities doing weekly walkthroughs in every building. We do have our directors supporting them, and they do have opportunities to talk to custodians about system fixes. Around training more broadly, I'd have to get back to you about specific training opportunities that our CEO of facilities, Chancellor, has undertaken. But Josh, I will get you back and just give you the rundown of the support to date and what they're thinking about for the future. But you're right, the use of anemometers and the use of the CO2 readers and things like how we're doing this is something that I know John Jay and our team has been working with the union on around how to best support and train, inform, so we can adapt to the changing guidance and make sure our systems are functioning as designed and making enhancements through, we do bring in, we have to do some retrofits, right? There's some sheet metal work we have to do and there's some more complicated fixes, but you're right, the training and support behind that, I'll follow up with you and make sure you have what we're doing the latest.
Great, thank you.
Sabina?
Hey, how are you? I know this is quite controversial and I'm not really looking to get into conversation about it, but it is quite hot now. And I know that you're getting ready for the summer rising, but we still have 2 weeks of school. And, you know, there are schools that literally use every inch of their school to be able to get the kids in, and they're wearing masks. And it's quite hot there. So is there things that we could implement at the moment in these schools, or are we looking to move away from masks moving forward into the next year? How does that work? But really specifically about the schools now and the kids now, because it is, you know, last week it was 90 and the classrooms get quite hot. And like you said, a lot of the gyms and the cafeterias that are being used as classrooms don't have the air conditioning capacities at the moment. So what do we do for the kids the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I send my my two kids off to IS-24 masks on, and we follow the guidance. We are talking to health experts around the heat and tolerating masks. There isn't an easy answer here for you. Right now, our mask guidance is that we wear masks. But I can tell you aggressively and very well resourced around the AC for All initiative. And so if there's a school that you know of that you don't think has air conditioning in the classroom, I'd like to know about it. I'd like to visit. I'd like to come back to you with real-time update about where the status is. We've made considerable growth over time in this administration to make AC a priority. And schools know that, and I see new window units going in daily. And I'm driving, like I said earlier, I'm driving into the kitchens and making sure, working with school staff to get the kitchen window units in too. And so if you feel there's a school that doesn't have the right coverage right now, I'd like to know about it. I'd like to visit myself. So if you could pass it along, that'd be appreciated.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I do not see any more hand raised. We are actually almost at time, so I guess we can just thank you, Moran.
Yeah.
And yeah, unless you have something to finish up, something you want to say to finish up.
Well, I just say that I want you to know I appreciate you and your role in support of the system. I'm walking into my 24th September, and I'm really proud of the work we've done over the last year in support of our students and family and the partnerships that we have together. And so I want you to know you can get me on a Saturday, Sunday, hit me with a text. If there's something on top of mind you want resolved, I'm very much a person that will be out there in the school the next day. I was in school yesterday and today, and it's where I find you know, the great kind of learning when you're in real time in the environment, in the problem, and working solutioning with the folks that roll their sleeves at school level. So from a central office perspective, I appreciate you, value you, and look forward to working with you, and know you can access these whenever you need. So I want to thank you for the time this morning.
All right, thank you. Cecilia, you had a question right here. I see you just raised your hand.
Yes, Marco. I would like to ask about ventilation. Is that okay?
Sure.
We are in a building that's very, very old, and at different meetings, once I asked one of the executive superintendents about ventilation, how our buildings will be ready for reopening, and we know that the ventilation system is not up to par. And the way they have been handling it was having the windows wide open, and it was very, very cold. Our students actually can't concentrate in learning because they're just way too cold. They even put on all their coats, and that's the best we could do. And I was told that the building will be fixed for reopening, but then another parent went to another meeting, and the option of having the windows open was being thrown out again. So we just
building?
want to know.
Which building?
The Brooklyn Latin School.
Brooklyn.
Latin, District 14.
Brooklyn,
K.
no, well, yeah, so I have, I can get you the report. I could email it to you. We post it publicly. Look, the classroom issue in the wintertime, I went out personally and visited a bunch of schools. I think there were some adjustments that we needed to make by open windows. I think people opened them 24 inches at the top and 6 inches on the bottom. No, completely not necessary. We were able to cut the window length down considerably to 2 to 3 inches at the top, and not every window, and show through readings. This is what you know, a CFM, what it means to have an air exchange. How many air exchanges you want? What is the cubic feet per minute? Like we showed people and say, okay, And the UFC helps us in that way to support and show the video and saying, look, this is how a system works, right? So it's in Brooklyn Latin, a lot of our older buildings actually are our best buildings because they introduce fresh air. And so it's a bit of adjustments, but I can tell you this, I will have a director walk with you. If you just text me a date you want to get out there with the principal and the custodian, we'll walk the building and we'll show you. You certainly want to be transparent, open and honest, but we'll still encourage fresh air. But if there's an HVAC issue around cooling or heating, we'll talk about it in real time because these are very specific building issues, and each system's unique. I've been inside boiler rooms at Lehman, which is different from Bergstrom, which is different than you know, like my kids' elementary school was built, you know, in the late 1890s. So like, yeah, we have differences in our buildings, and so I can't give you a broad answer. Only to say that all of our results are posted online. If ventilation is not functioning, we won't use a building or a space. But we're happy to report that we've been spending the last 16 months repairing systems, getting them dialed in, and enhancing systems and supplementing systems every day of the week. So love to get out in the building with you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. I see our Chancellor just joined us, so I'm gonna give the floor to her.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kevin. It's always good to follow Kevin. He has so many answers. I want to thank Jimmy and Marco for your leadership again during this unprecedented year. Our city's families are so lucky to have you and all of you, this entire executive board. And I want to thank all of the president's councils and their members for your advocacy and the work you're doing on behalf of our communities. I want to thank my team members on this call who listen, learn, and build a system in partnership with you for all of our children. And this morning, we announced the CEC election results, and I wanted to share how amazed and grateful we are to the civic engagement. You know, when I was in the Bronx and we were starting this process, one of the things that was really important to me was to make sure the Bronx was represented. And now as I assume this role and have seen the results of our work, I want to thank you all for your hard work in making sure these elections came to life. We have a new executive director of FACE, you all know very well, Sadie, who is committed to supporting all parent leaders, whether in elected positions or not. And so for folks who didn't get elected to a seat, we welcome you, your voice, your leadership, and your expertise. We see you and applaud your commitment today and always. And so, you know, after a year of loss, grief, trauma, some of which hasn't gone anywhere, I cannot affirm the importance of your leadership enough. It's not lost on me that this Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, and I am asking school communities everywhere to reimagine what's possible, and I want us to do the same together. So as we move towards a September reopening, I would like for the President's Council for each borough and district to reflect on how we can partner in a deeper and more authentic way. I welcome your ideas and into visitations to visit with President's Councils and look forward to having ongoing conversations with the Executive Board. I'm also excited to hear your out-of-the-box ideas about how we can move from engagement to real empowerment. And I think this election was a real demonstration of that. Remember, we are in this together. You have my commitment to listen, but you also have my willingness to connect and build together. I appreciate deeply and welcome the opportunity to engage with CPAC membership and to partner on the school and community level. And now I'm excited to open up and turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Chancellor. Guys, go for question. I see a hand raised from Jackie.
Good morning, Chancellor Porter. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Jackie.
Greetings from Manhattan High Schools, as you are my fellow parent. I have some rock stars in Manhattan High Schools, not taking anything away from anyone else, but our Chancellor is a Manhattan High School parent as well. And with that said, our parent leaders are asking, in order to bring equity and excellence to all high schools, we are wondering if DOE would consider instituting having all high school teachers certified in advanced placement or its equivalents.
That's a great question. So I know, and I'm not going to speak for just Manhattan, but I will acknowledge that I know the Manhattan high schools under the leadership of Executive Superintendent Rosado have been doing a lot of work to expand enrichment opportunities, and that includes AP and college level course offerings. I'd be happy to think together about, throughout AP for All initiatives, we've expanded the number of AP courses across our high schools, the number of teachers certified to teach AP courses, and would be excited to think about how we expand that even more. As we engage in this conversation about where we go with gifted and talented and where we go with specialized high schools, I think the root of that conversation, the heart of that conversation is how do we ensure that all students across our city have access to high-level courses in every single high school. So Dr. Jackie, happy to talk more about expansion, happy to talk more about increasing access across our city and expanding, but also expanding our conversation about what high-level courses are. They include absolutely AP classes. When I was a principal in the Bronx, we didn't create, we didn't have a gifted and talented program. We didn't have an honors track. We had AP classes because that was a recognized accelerated course. And we also had a partnership with CUNY Hostos and offered College Now courses. And so we have these opportunities to also partner deeper with CUNY to create access to College Now, increase access to AP, and excited to do that together.
Thank you very much. And we got to follow up with Josh Wallach to change that GNT name. I got some great ideas. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you.
Leonard, go ahead.
Hi, Chancellor. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you for coming. So I understand we have a new system for CC elections, and this was the first time. In the past, the voting was done by 3 PTA representatives from each school, which limited the number of voters. But I saw the results from the entire city. I'm pleased that at least District 2, I believe, had by far the highest number of voters. But I take a different look at this because I saw the actual numbers when they were inadvertently released a couple days ago. And I got to tell you that the participation level of parents, and I'm not going to call out specific districts, but I can tell you in some districts where you have more than half of the representatives chosen for the CEC by less than 25, 50 votes, when you have districts with 10,000 parents, I think we really need to do more. And I can't think of anything that shows that we are failing to actively engage and mobilize parents, and that parents feel disconnected and not engaged than looking at the voting just in this very recent CC election. When you look at the numbers that are just pitifully low in some districts, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's a disgrace, quite frankly. And I think we really need to do things better. And I'm not blaming this on FACE. I know they reached out, but something's wrong when you have districts where 100 people, 200 people vote in a CC election with 20,000 kids. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. And I'd like to know your ideas on how we can all, we as CPAC, and what we can do to partner with you to really engage parents to make them feel that they're involved in this process. Because I look at the results and I'm pleased I was elected, but and again, our district had a pretty good turnout, but overall, as far as the city goes, we have a lot of work to do, and nothing shows that more than these recent results.
Thank you, Leonard. And I'm going to pull in my partners, Deputy Chancellor Austin and Sadie, Executive Director for FACE. But I will start with this. I think this was the first time we did this way, and it was a unprecedented election in an unprecedented time. Is there more work for us to do? Do we need to ensure that we are making sure underrepresented communities are represented? Absolutely. And I appreciate your offer for partnership from CPAC for us to do that together, because I agree with you. We have to continue to do more.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chancellor. Thank you for the question and raising that up, Leonard. This is the first time we've done a citywide election, which, you think about the New York Board of Election and how many issues there are every, municipal election cycle with an agency that is designed only to do elections. You got to remember, that's not the DOE. So we're very excited that we were able to mobilize everyone and have a successful election, and also a successful election for the first time using electronic voting only, right? I had my expectations were, let's just not have this thing break. We've got NICSA and ATI, all these sort of interesting DOE systems that had to integrate into this voting platform to produce the ballots that everyone could use to vote. And my hope was, because this was all newly designed this year and newly programmed, that everything would work successfully, and it did. So that's like number one for me, like, woohoo, it didn't break, it worked out well. Absolutely. The number of voters is something we want to look at and figure out, how do we drive up voting? And it's not unique just to DOE, right? This is something that everyone wonders in every election cycle. Why is the voting rates, voting participation so low? And why is it, especially right now during the pandemic? I can tell you, I've spoken to parent leaders in the Bronx. I had a parent leader in the Bronx. She stood up, and she's a CEC president now, was like, I've lost 40, 50 members of my family, members of my community. I'm not okay. That's a lot of people right now. That's a lot of parents right now. And so as much as for me as the deputy chancellor that, mobilized to make sure we had the funding, unprecedented funding to support this huge election, and the marketing and the this and the that and the 64 virtual forums, all these things, I am very cognizant that parents have a lot on their plate right now. And as important as this is, for parents who are mourning, are experiencing loss, have economic instability and all these things right now in this moment, I can understand why this might not have been the priority for all parents across the city, because they're dealing with a lot of other things. And the other thing that I would add is that this was a virtual election. And it's a virtual election because we're in a pandemic. And so we would love to have opened up all of our schools and had everybody come in and vote, but that wasn't really on the table. So we did have some in-person voting, and we didn't have a lot of turnout because it's a pandemic. For the in-person
Adrian, I understand that. I agree with you 100%. I just want to say that if we're not engaging these parents, and if these parents aren't committed, maybe that also explains why they're not getting the resources for programs like G&T, for the specialized high schools. These communities are not connecting. They're not connected with the system, and that's where we really all need to do better. FACE did a great job. I can tell you that we got email after email. The parent coordinators did a great job trying to get the word out, but something's missing, and we really have to to do a better job on this.
And I agree with you, Leonard, but can I just say, having led a very underrepresented borough, I say this respectfully, it is not a lack of commitment. It's a lack of time. And I think that one of the things that we have to do, and I think we learned very much during this pandemic, and I really look forward to partnering around it, we have to expand access and opportunities for parents to engage. Listen, I'll tell you my truth. I was a teacher, a principal, and a superintendent throughout my daughter's entire high school, elementary, and middle school career. And, some might say I wasn't involved in the way we define involvement, but I'll tell you, I was engaged and empowered every step of the way. And I think that is what is important. We need to define what we mean. And the numbers tell us a story, absolutely. So we have to address that story, but we also have to define, the ways that parents have shown up. Schools have had parents at 800 parents at a PTA meeting, when in the past there weren't more than 20, 25. And 2025 was a good night. And so I think this is a moment for us to really learn and push forward. And to your point, and I really appreciate it, let's make sure that our communities are really represented. Our parents' voices are at the table, and we're creating a bridge for all parents to be actively engaged.
I just want to add one more quick thing to that before we move on, just quick. Which is, we also have a CCEC working group. We've had it this entire time. We're not disbanding that group. We are going to be working with this group. We have a full-time committed elections team, which is different than we had previously, because now we're taking on a citywide election. That team is still an elections team. They will be working on the off year to do a complete dissection of this election with the working group, and then develop rules and calibrate for the next cycle. So just want to also let you know, we're not done. We know we have a lot of work to do, but we're going to keep that working group going and completely do a post-mortem of the election and then rebuild for the following.
Let's learn from this, because it's a great learning.
That's cool, guys. I think we should really use this time. We can take this issue later on with directly with Adrian and Sadie, and focus on other issue with the chancellor, since we have limited time with her. I'm not taking it away, I just feel we can focus much more on other issues. I want to call on Shalonda from D14. This is the first day with us. Even though she just raised her hand, I'm going to skip her on and have her go first, just because this is her first day that she's joined CPAC. Shalonda,
Hi.
go ahead.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. I am currently the President's Council President at D14, but also the PTA President at PS 147. And I know buzz around D14 has been about racism, anti-Blackness, and LGBTQ plus transphobia that is rampant in our district. And what I have to say is that while there has been an effort to address LGBTQ plus with forums, with workshops, anti-bias training, what is being left out of the conversation is the anti-Blackness that is there. PS 147 held a town hall. We were not allowed to ask questions, and it only addressed LGBTQ plus. I know you all have heard of D14, PS 132 specifically, PS 147 specifically, and the community is being left out of this process. We are not being brought to that table that you spoke of earlier. And then I want to address the fact that with our CEC, a lot of our outwardly racist and transphobic parents were elected to the CEC. So I really want to understand how you will move forward in keeping families safe who advocate for respect for all, which is a DOE policy. But what's definitely being left out is addressing anti-Blackness. And so I want to know, what are we going to do moving forward? Because that is not being addressed with the same vigor and urgency as LGBTQ plus rights, which is intersectional.
Yep. Thank you, Shalonda. And I'm glad to have you here and definitely going to bring my team in. But let me just say a couple of things. One, I visited D14, heard from families. I think that evening or the next meeting at the PEP, committed to come back and meet with families, and I am committed to doing that as well. And am clear that I know the FACE team and Deputy Chancellor Austin are working to look at our policies to ensure that we have policies in place for our CECs and the ways in which our family engaged that address the respect for all that we require in our school buildings to live across the ways in which we engage. And so I know there's a much bigger conversation to be had about D14. I am remaking my commitment to coming out to D14 and meeting with families. And I will tell you that internally, we've already had an internal conversation about how do we support but also bring D14 together around this work that you are all deeply committed around. And it's anti-racist, it's anti-bias, it's anti-homophobia. It is really about, bringing love to D14 and, ensuring that all of the underrepresented communities are really represented in the spaces. So, Sadie, Adrian, if you want to join in, but just know I have not forgotten my commitment to D14.
I'll share big picture citywide stuff, and I'm gonna kick it over to Sadie because I know she's working around this with the FACE team. We are working on some policy work, especially around the area of parent leadership, and CPAC is represented on an equity council. We are pretty far down the path with creating an anti-discrimination policy in this context. There's an anti-discrimination policy that protects our students. There's an anti-discrimination policy that protects our staff, but there's nothing similar for parent leaders. And what we've seen across the last year and a half or so are just what happens when there are no guardrails and boundaries when it comes to how you treat your colleagues who are in parent leadership spaces. And so one of the things that I'm committed to, and I know our chancellor is committed to, is making sure that there are some clear guardrails and boundaries and that there are some rules around discrimination and a clear stance from the DOE that says discrimination is not acceptable. And it's not acceptable if you're a parent or a parent leader. And Sadie, I'm gonna turn it over to you because I know you're doing work with FACE in District 14 specifically.
Yeah, I guess, Shalonda, I want to just, acknowledge that anti-Blackness is pervasive.
And when we don't lift up and find the bravery to just name that and say it, like, we will continue to see repeating patterns of harm. And so I am sorry that you're experiencing this. I am sitting with how we want to bring more people into these formal structures of parental and school engagement, such as the school leadership team, the PTAs, the CECs, but that simultaneously we need to make sure that these spaces are safe. They're safe for families to be seen. They're safe for students to participate in, and they're safe for our school communities to partner and actually, work towards something together that is in service of making sure that all of our students and families, and this includes the LGBTQIA community, and this includes everybody. I think it's really important when the agency says we want culturally responsive and sustaining practices, that it means that we want folks to be seen in their full selves and their authentic selves. And that means naming things that are difficult, right? A lot of people shy away from that discomfort, but racism is really uncomfortable. And so we can't be surprised that feelings of discomfort and pain come up, because racism certainly is both uncomfortable and painful. But I also want to say what it's not. And CRSC is not excluding people either, right? Because we say we're pro-Black, it doesn't mean we don't want to talk about all the rest of the world. I also want to lift up that anti-racism for me, when I hear it and when I practice it, it's a proactive role. It's a lifestyle. You embody, obviously, anti-racism, but it's also, yes, an opportunity to acknowledge some of the pain that comes with anti-Blackness. But anti-racism is also a collective opportunity to marvel at the contributions of Black and Indigenous and Asian diasporic contributions to the world. And so I hope that we can both acknowledge the pain that comes from these growing pains that come from how we sort of get to a more anti-racist society, because nobody in this Zoom call has lived through it yet, but also how we can consistently flip the narrative and say, when we recognize the contributions of our Black community, we all become global learners. We all have an opportunity to listen to different, whether it's music or different types of arts, right? It's an opportunity to be expansive in our learning, and it doesn't mean excluding folks. And so I just want to lift that up as sort of something I've been sitting with, but I really appreciate that. And certainly my goal as the executive director of FACE is to really think critically and examine the formal structures to make sure that they feel like safe spaces, and to give folks the tools to be able to be in those spaces, especially when conflict comes up, which of course we kind of need conflict in order to be the transformative system we're moving towards. So just want to acknowledge that and appreciate your comment.
Thank you, Sadie. So guys, we have 4 hands raised. Let's see if we can keep them in the next 7 minutes. Sabina, go ahead.
Good morning. I wanted to talk about September so that we're not at September 12th and then looking what's happening the next day. As you know, there are a lot of parents that are still requesting remote options for a number of reasons, and are hoping that the DOE will put that back on the table. And also a lot of parents are concerned with, we're very excited to be going back full time, but there were so many schools that were not able right now to provide the 3 feet and the 6 feet during lunches. So how is that going to change if that's still part of the requirement for September? And where are those kids going to fit? I know there's been talks about, utilizing community centers and things of that nature, but when will parents know about that? Just so that we're prepared. And if parents need to make other arrangements or whatever it is that they need to do, they could do that with full information moving forward.
Thank you, Sabina. So a couple of things. So number one, we're looking at all of our facilities and, with the 3 feet in mind, and coming up with creative solutions where we know that can't work. And I'm so glad Kevin cut on his camera. I didn't realize he was here still. But so, I've said this over and over again. I'll continue to say it. I think we are in agreement, but I know that there are concerns. Nothing replaces the in-person interaction between a teacher and a student. Nothing replaces that learning. However, I am very clear that there's parents who are worried. There are parents who still have fear about vaccinations. There are parents who still have fear about this pandemic that isn't over yet. But we are making great strides in New York City and are working very closely with our schools to develop alternative and creative options to get our students back in. So Kevin, please feel free to add on to that.
Yes, Thank you, Chancellor. What I would say is that's exactly what's happening. It's working with school leaders in the community on solutioning. I was with the principal 7:30 yesterday morning talking about this, and we will be, in the 3-foot rule. Most of us know that school desks are already spatially set at 3 feet. That students sit 3 feet apart traditionally in an environment. So what it is around the use of cafeteria spaces, to your point, is like where else can we meet the students where they could expand to 6 feet in a public assembly space, in other spaces in the building. And so those solutioning efforts are happening now in real time. We've had some office hours with principals and school leaders and our borough executive superintendents and their teams around what are the programmatic flexibilities that we need to take. And this is all a planning exercise, as we've done for the last 15 months, looking at the CDC guidance and where our school communities need to be, acknowledging some constraints within a physical space on square footage and students and how that marries over in a 3 feet to then 6 feet spatial environment. So just I would say and trust that this is happening now, and this is where school leaders and families come together on planning, and that hard work is very much underway.
Thank you.
Rashida?
Hey, Chancellor Porter. Thank you, Marco. I just wanted to ask, I'm elevating some of the concerns that my CPAC executive board members were raising, inquiring why our schools will still be used as polling sites. And I know it's a city thing, but just wanted to lift up the concerns here with the sharing of the building and the physical distancing and everything, trying to navigate through all of that. And then also hearing rumors that schools will pivot to remote on election day to allow the space to be used for polling, for voting. So that's one question. And the second question, as I say, pivot to remote, will just uplift the fact that we all are really, really asking for a remote option for the reopening of the school new year, and wondering how that looks when we talk about election day, snow days. I think they were saying like whatever different kind of days that will not be an in-person day, but will be a remote day. So we are doing some sort of remote learning, but what is that looking like? And we would love to hear more about it and understand it as parents.
Hi, Rashida. I'll start with the last, and then I'm going to bring Kevin to talk about the first question. So we've already, remote learning, and we are going to think it forward as an innovation in our system. A way, many of us were either in school or working in schools or had children in school during Hurricane Sandy, and we didn't have remote learning as an option at that time to pivot to. So we will definitely be leveraging remote learning for snow days, and have also offered in this moment, while we are still kind of deep in the pandemic, have offered remote learning as an option for schools who are concerned about continuing to be polling sites during this moment. But we've done a lot of work to move the polling sites out of our school buildings because of that concern. I'm going to let the man who's really done the work, Kevin Moran, talk about what that looks like.
Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you, Rashida. Excellent question. Over the years, we've partnered with the Board of Elections in efforts to identify non-public school spaces where they could reach communities. I think there's an honest acknowledgement here that schools are sometimes the best spaces for the communities to come out. I know my school PS8, I love going there. I love casting my ballot. It's something that we have to look at. They're using currently, obviously, the public assembly spaces. So in schools right now, currently, it would likely be the school gymnasium or potentially school cafeteria. And so there's some sacrifices there that we have to make instructionally and programmatically. But the goal is not to have to continue every year over year in a primary scenario taking spaces from schools. So we work with Board of Elections on that. I got to be honest with you, and I think there's an obligation on our part as an agency to provide space so that foundationally, voting occurs. What I would say around the pivot to remote, there are schools, and I was at a high school in Brooklyn last week where there were 5 classrooms in that very space, right? So does the whole school need to go to a remote day? Absolutely not. Do those 5 classes and their teachers need to flip to remote? Potentially. And is that a conversation that we dictate here centrally? No. That's something that we ask principals and school leaders and their PTAs to say, look, we are a standing voting site. what do you think about our options? Now, could we rotate the program and move people up on floors and use unoccupied spaces? Potentially, but that solutioning happens at the school. What I would say is we're going to continue to do that, and if folks feel comfortable with a section of their school going on the primary day to remote, we'll work with the First Deputy Chancellor, team, and superintendents on what are those best decisions for school leaders in the school community, and trying to do our best to have those happen together without disrupting the in-person experience for our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Let's see if there is still time. I see you're not running away, so I'm gonna call on Cecilia that hasn't spoken yet from the 26th.
Thank you, Marco. Good morning, Chancellor. Thank you for listening to us. My question is regarding summarizing. We have, and we're very thankful that that is happening. Thank you for putting it together. However, we get a lot of parents asking for information, and information is nowhere to be found other than we'll get back to you in a few days. And the parents that I've heard that got information is that they have kids in waiting lists, and these parents want to plan, and we're like 2.5 weeks away from the end of the school year, and without information, it's really hard, and especially because of the year that we've had. It has been so stressful. I feel like everyone needs like stability and information to plan and stop all that craziness that we all experience. So I appreciate like some information about like when and how parents are going to receive the details of the summer rising program, and if there are other schools that are going to be open, if like to place all these kids and maybe in waiting lists now.
Thank you, Cecilia. And I'm excited about Summer Rising. I think it is the I'm sorry, I leave after this question. Anyway, I'm sorry, Cecilia. I think summarizing is really important as part of the bridge back to school. I can tell you Executive Superintendent Sardui in Queens has been really pushing to make sure that we get answers to Queens families. I'm going to follow up directly with D26. I'm happy to connect you with, because he's not on this call. I wish we would have thought to have him on here. Anthony Ladico is leading our efforts around summarizing, and we know that we are also working to finalize getting the information to families about where they will be. We had a large number of, thankfully, a large number of families in Queens who expressed interest in summarizing. And so, Sadie, can you connect with Cecilia so we can get her connected directly with Anthony so I can make sure we get answers directly to District 26? I don't want to just, you know, I don't want to give a lot of not answers, but I see in the chat summarizing our questions. We could definitely create a space, and that probably makes sense to have a conversation about summarizing with families. And so I'm happy to follow up and do that sooner rather than later so that we can get these questions answered. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chancellor.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. So good to see everybody. Take care.
Thank you. So next up, I think we have Sadie and Adrian, so we can maybe
we planned a duet, so cue the music. No, just kidding. I think that would be
fun. Go ahead, we want to hear you guys sing.
Just to switch it up, you know what I mean? Like how many report outs can we take? But
but also no, you don't. You really don't want to hear us sing. You don't want to hear me sing. Maybe Sadie can sing, but I can't carry a tune. I don't know if y'all want to start with elections, and I can hop off and Sadie can take it from there. And I'm hoping the elections is really short and sweet. So this morning we did a quick rundown with everybody of the results of the election. Really excited that we had the success that we had in this election, in that it was the largest election that DOE has ever run in the history of DOE. And we saw the largest number of parent leaders run, over 1,750 parent leaders running for seats, campaigning in a time where it's almost impossible to campaign. Folks were doing all sorts of virtual events and a lot of digital communications, but had to be very creative because the usual campaign strategies just couldn't happen because we're in a pandemic. So shout out to all the parent leaders who ran. Shout out to all the parent leaders who we celebrated this morning. who will be seated on our CCECs. And then just wanted to shout out all that we had over 21,000 parents vote, which again is historic for DOE. That's the highest amount of parent participation we've ever had in any election at DOE. So hear you loud and clear, Leonard Silverman. We got a lot of more. Let's get them all out. But that's the most we've ever had out. So I'm excited about that. But I know there's a lot of questions, and so I want to be able to answer any questions that y'all have. I'll put the link to the results in the chat so you guys have that. I will tell you now, because people have already asked, where do I file my grievance? Yes, please file your grievance, bring your grievances. We want to hear the grievances. We want to make sure we got this right. It's elections2021@schools.nyc.gov. That's the email address you guys have been using this entire time. And that's how to reach the elections team. And that's where folks can send the grievances. I'll also put that in the chat.
Adrian, but when you're saying more parents voted ever, you're meaning like there were more votes than at the time in which the school boards were in place?
That's a good question. Like the individual school boards across the city. That's a great question. I don't know that. It's definitely since the DOE has been holding a central election and most votes ever. I think we came close to that one year, the year that we got sued and we had to invalidate and redo the election. For those of you that remember that, I think that was several years ago where, the whole thing broke and there was all these problems and folks got, it was a mess. They came close to getting that number of voters because it was a citywide election, but they didn't reach the numbers that we reached. So this is the height for DOE.
Okay. So guys, should we go for questions on this issue and then move on with Sadie or
Yes, Mr.
I'm not sure if the hand raised are related to this because it feels like they were the question that we had before, but Griselle, if you have, go ahead.
It was a question about from before for the chancellor, because honestly, I'm not okay with this whole community centers and other outlet situation for schools that are overly crowded or whatever it is that they said last night. Again, I feel like the Bronx is a stepchild to the DOE. So I'll email my question.
I'm so sorry, Griselle, because I heard you getting emotional and I know this is an issue. You're not alone. There are a lot of parents who have reached out to me who have a lot of anxiety, a lot of are in a place when it comes to return to school in the fall. And I know DOE has a lot of work to do to instill confidence in places like the Bronx that our schools are safe and that we have the capacity to serve every student safely. So I hear you loud and clear, Griselle. And I also just want to I'm so sorry that you're in this space, but you're not alone in this space. We hear you loud and clear, and it is the duty of the chancellor and everybody on the chancellor's team to hear you and parents who feel similarly to you and do our best to meet you where you are.
Just a bit scary because where I live in Mount Eden, there has been a lot of shooting broad daylight, and we have lost students. So that's why I'm saying that how would these kids, their safety and families that are going through domestic violence, but also students with IEPs in these spaces, how would they receive their services, meals, all this other stuff? Will there be nurses? I mean, it's just a whole lot of questions. Sorry.
Maybe after, before closing this meeting, we want to dedicate a moment to the issues you're raising and try to collect all the issues in one place and then send them over to Adrian, the chancellor, et cetera, and see what can be done. Okay, Veronica.
Hi, Marco. Good morning, everyone. I heard about the citywide leadership team. I would like to know what would be CPAC intake about that, and because I haven't heard a conversation at CPAC, so I said let me bring it and find out what it would be the conversation around that, or what is the vision for that for the citywide leadership team.
Okay, so that is more a question for CPAC business, but there was a vote last year on CPAC which voted down the proposal. just to make it
Yeah.
quick.
When was
Sabrina?
that? Is it Tuesday?
We could, so we should not waste. So if that's a CPAC issue, we can talk about it afterward. Let's keep questions
All right.
for
Because I'd like to see them.
Adrian and Sadie right now. Sabrina?
Thank you.
Good morning, Deputy Chancellor. When the results sort of came on yesterday, and there was a lot of talks, a lot of families mentioned that they actually had no idea that more than one person from a school would not be elected. And they felt that they weren't communicated that in any of the trainings. I know I didn't mention that when I
Okay, honey, thank you.
sorry, someone is not muted.
Oh, yes, please mute.
I'm so sorry about
Sorry. And so some felt that they would have probably voted differently had they known that. And I also, I don't, and it could just be me, I feel like I knew that information, but I know that I don't think I expressed it at my elections. And I think a lot of other communities felt a little bit of the same. I don't know how to address that, but I did want to bring that up because that was a lot of talks yesterday about that.
Can you, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of what you said, just in terms of what people weren't aware of.
They weren't aware that like multiple people from one school would not be elected. So let's say you had one school that ran with like 4 people and they were all excited because the whole community was like, you know, backing one particular, something of that sort. And they felt that they would have possibly, given that information, voted differently. And they weren't aware of that. And I know that even in the trainings that we did with the CEC elections team, that wasn't really discussed. And I know I did not say that when I gave my presentation during elections. It just wasn't, I didn't realize. So I'm not sure what to do with that information, but I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you for lifting that up. The same school rule is one of those, it is part of the statutory framework. And so it's one of those things that we sort of have carried with us from election to election. But to your point, this was a new election open to a wider set of parents who were participating for the first time. And so it certainly is something that should have been part of our explanation to parents when they were voting. I know we put out a lot of materials. I will make sure that I bring that back to the team and that they look at what they produced to make sure that going forward, if it's not clear, that it's explicitly clear that there's a same school rule. And the reason behind that is just, I mean, you guys can imagine if there were schools like Brooklyn Tech that has, 4,000, 5,000 students, and then you think about the numbers of families that then get to vote, you could end up with a council. And that's a bad example because it's high school, but you could end up in any community with a council where, the entire council is filled with parents who are parents at the same one school. And what we want is diversity of representation on each council so that the entire district is represented.
Yeah, it totally, the reason makes sense, but I don't think it was communicated to families and they did not know. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you very much. Good, excellent point.
Guys, we have 2 more minutes on this section of this meeting. Sadie had something to communicate, hasn't spoken yet. I'm gonna give her the floor. And then we can maybe, if you guys have time, I don't know if you, Adrian, have time, maybe a little later, we can extend the meeting, maybe 15, 20 minutes and go back to this issue that looks like a lot of people want to discuss about, like noonish, if you have time.
Actually, I have a 12 o'clock, but people can always email me. I'll drop my email. I'll actually drop the elections email in the chat because if folks have technical questions, they can ask that. And I promised I'll put links in the chat so I can put links in now.
Okay, great. Sadie, you take the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I'm also happy to just sort of take folks' questions if that's more helpful. I want to make sure that I'm centering parent voice and not my own voice. I was going to just sort of report out on, I have assumed the position of executive director at FACE in April. I started off with a bunch of one-on-ones with my team, relationship building, right? The same way when you guys enter PTA spaces, it's really important that the first couple meetings, you spend on relationship building, relationship over task. And so that's sort of where I've been at. I wanted to share a couple questions that I've been sitting with as I listen to different communities and think about what are the next steps of the office, specifically connected to actually D2 Leonard's question today, which was, there were some inequities around who was participating in what across the city. And I guess, the answer is that we need to continue to strengthen the formal structures that we have to make sure that they are safe, to Sholanda's points, to make sure that they are welcoming, inclusive spaces and effective functioning spaces. But also we need different outreach strategies for different communities, right? Some people, of course, speak different languages, but some folks prefer phone calls, robocalls, texts, indoor door knocking. As part of my portfolio in the community affairs office, which I've merged into FACE because that's really where it belongs, we spent time in tenant association. We spent time in laundromats with families, in people's homes if they'd have us, certainly in libraries, with our clergy community, with students, student groups, formal councils, as well as student organizations such as Teens Take Charge, Urban Youth Collaborative, the Make the Road community of students. So we want to continue to embed that work, but also simultaneously make sure that the team has what it needs to stand in its role. And so some of that has been, what does an empowered parent need from Central? What does an empowered parent coordinator look like or need from Central and our team? And so I'd love to share some of these collective inquiry questions with you, CPAC, so that you can maybe answer them and also participate in some of my inquiry, but information, so that we can move the office in a way that's really culturally responsive to parent voice, to student voice, and to community voice. I said this earlier today, we're really excited about the folks that got elected to CEC positions, but there were so many people who applied, and parent leaders come in all different shapes and sizes, to the Chancellor's point. I'm a class parent and haven't really totally done the best job this year because I'm also a class parent to you all. So I wanted to lift that up and see if, in the spirit of reimagining our relationship, that is me not coming to you and sort of doing a PowerPoint and talking at you, but also to sort of take your lead and take your guidance on what needs to happen, I wonder if I could send some of those questions your way, and you guys could actually generate some feedback for me and for our team, so we can sit with, so we can be explicitly culturally responsive to the needs of CPAC. I also want to lift up the Chancellor's invitation to specific President's Council meetings and schools. We're not going to be able, this is the biggest base of folks who are in schools, who are at drop off and pickup. I would like to charge you all the same way I've charged my team, identify different events at the local level that she can come to, that I can come to, that we can come to as a group. Yesterday, I was in the Harbor School with the Chancellor, and I have never seen anything like it. We learned from students about the Billion Oyster Project and how oysters can contribute to the sustainability and cleanliness of our waterways. They also talked to me about scuba diving. I love being in the field. There's school garden, which, by the way, is a very big special project of mine, because I really would like to see school gardens everywhere as, yes, a means to learn about science, as a means to activate a whole school community, including parents, students, and folks who work in the school building, but also because being outdoors, connected to Mother Nature, learning hands-on in that way, I think is a culturally responsive and healing-centered approach, especially after the trying year that we've had. Rashida, I had to give you a little healing-centered. One of my colleagues here today, Aisha George, our beloved Manhattan Borough Director, is going to talk about our Family Wellness Collective, Family and Community Wellness Collective initiative. So we can tie that together through school gardens. We can tie that together through outreach approaches. But I really don't want to miss an opportunity as a new executive director to take your lead on exactly how we should be showing up for you. And so I welcome your feedback, your thoughts, and if it's okay that I send you a whole bunch of questions that hopefully you guys can compile some answers to, that I can sit with, or I'd be happy to do the workshop with you at another time as well.
Or maybe both.
or hopefully both, if you'll have it.
Thank you, Sadie. Cecilia, you are the only hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sadie. I love everything you're saying. Thank you for being open to what we have to say. I just wanted to circle back to my question about summarizing. I feel that it's not only District 26 that has that's waiting for answers, but it's everyone. So I would appreciate to have that community conversation that you suggested. I think Jessica said that District 28 is also waiting for answers about summarizing. I think it's a general concern that parents are like need to plan and it's causing stress. So I thank you for suggesting that about summarizing.
So I was texting with some of my colleagues who were saying that District 26 has questions about summarizing, but that you're not the only one. And so I wonder, you know, to be creative and be outside the box, like I could facilitate a conversation with the summarizing team and say it's a community conversation. At the same time, I want to lift up that if I host that, I want to make sure that folks can feel empowered to participate, right? Diversity is just having a mix of people in the room. Inclusivity is, do I feel comfortable to speak? Do I have access to the language? Do I have what I need to participate? Equity means, do I have what I need in general, right, as a whole group? And so I want to make sure that, I put together something that is not, doesn't have unintended consequences like, well, you only did it in English and you forgot all these other folks. And so that's sort of where my head is, like, oh yeah, we'll put it together quickly. But because I sometimes do English-centered thinking and have to sort of recheck myself on the language justice, it takes time then to coordinate the different language access points. So I'm holding the tension between, yeah, we could put this together tomorrow, next week, and also like, wait, put it together for who could not have access to that information. How can we do better to make sure that we're, speaking to one Fukinese family that didn't get that translation, right? That's one family that doesn't go seen. So that's a tension.
Yeah, access is like super important. It's just like I feel that it's a little urgent because we're 2.5 weeks away, and I feel that the information is not available. It's not a matter of like this group or that group. I think it's a general thing. So I appreciate it. Language access is very important, but it's also urgent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jessica, go quick. We actually need to move on to the next topic, but go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate, because summarizing is a craw right now in my job, because the whole rollout, it's a great program and it's a great idea, but just like the rest of the districts, we need more information before we send our children to some program that we don't know anything about. But I'm happy to take the conversation offline with Sadie if that's the correct person in regards to the summarizing. But I'm all for an information session. But yeah, we're supposed to be starting that soon. So just so you know. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jessica. I'm totally able to do that. I just want to lift up again, is this one of those we don't let perfect get in the way of good, or do we actually stall to make sure that we are, centering access to those who don't normally have access to participate quickly in English? So that might mean I arrange this quick interpretation, which is also possible, but I'm lifting up that sort of vulnerable space that the DOE has a lot, that we're like at the rush to just do a thing, but then it puts us in a seat of not quite getting our other ducks in a row that could leave really critical partners out. So welcome your ideas.
Great. Well, thank you, Sadie. One thing is, like, we are lucky here on CPAC that everybody speaks English in terms of representatives. And so we are able to keep the language into one language, even though somebody, like I'm one of them, and I'm not the only one, actually has another one as their first language. But hopefully then each district is able to and is empowered to distribute the information in multiple languages and receives helps. Let's go quick.
We also hold a weekly briefing in Spanish where we have gone over this, and we can continue to revisit it. But I just want to make sure we want to do more. We have not arrived at the language justice threshold yet, but we are. I'm actively working on it, and again, lifting it up so that it's not just I'm trying to move, sort of trip over my own feet. So appreciate it, and we can absolutely set up a special session for CPAC with the commitment from all of you that you will turnkey. And then the commitment from me that we translate as much as possible, so that at least you can turnkey things in different languages.
Luis, last comment or question, then we need to move on.
Thank you, Marco. Sadie, I have a question. I was looking at the election results for CC 3 and 6, but they put them down from the website. Is there a reason for that? They're no longer there posted.
Sorry, the website for the CEC elections, you're not seeing 3 or 6?
It was there before, but now they're not there.
Okay, I'll just have to check on it. I've been
Okay.
staring at this screen and not on any other screens to give you my full attention. So I don't know if I've missed any emails or anything, glitches like that. What's up, Liz Ackles? A community food advocate. I'm a community food advocate as well. So
Hi, Sadie.
please, let me yield my time to Liz, a true star, an agent of change in our
Actually,
system.
before Liz,
Oh,
we
I
have somebody else here.
before, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, of course.
Aisha. Aisha George, you're here, right?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Sorry, we are running out of time, but
Bye,
sorry,
Marco.
Liz,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna-
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Sadie.
Thanks,
Thank
Sadie.
you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Aisha. Take it away.
Sadie. So I'm going to be extremely brief, but I'm going to is Rashida still here?
Yeah.
So we have wonderfully been partnering with the, hello? Can people
Hold
mute?
on.
Okay.
We can hear you, Miss George.
Okay. It's a lot of, okay, there
We're
we go.
good. We're good.
Good morning. So we've had the wonderful task of partnering with the Healing Centered Working Group. So I'm going to let Rashida talk for like 2 minutes, and then I'm going to give you a 2-minute update, and then I promise we will be done.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Rashida.
Okay, thank you, Aisha George. All right, y'all, I'm Rashida Harris. I'm going to take my CPAC hat off and put my hat on as a parent leader at PAC, Parent Action Committee, and the Healing Center Schools Working Group. And Aisha will talk to you all about this DOE's Family and Community Wellness Collective that they've launched regarding these healing ambassadors that'll be selected for the schools. And I'm just coming on really quickly, as Aisha stated, because our group, the Healing Center Schools Working Group, we have been working closely with the DOE around this program, and we just want folks to know that we fully support each other. We recognize it's not perfect, but nothing's perfect, right? So it's a start. And we all, as we finalize our healing ambassadors for the selected schools, please keep in mind that we can do this work together, whether your school has been selected or not. The Healing Center Schools Working Group has launched the Healing Center Schools Task Force with the Public Advocate's Office to ensure that New York City schools are implementing healing center supportive strategies in all New York City schools. And we have 2 listening sessions coming up, June 12th and June 16th, that we need to hear from you about healing-centered change. We need you to get involved so we can all work together and gather all your feedback as a community so we can work with our group and DOE to continue to grow this out. This Healing Ambassador program is just the beginning, and we love to hear from you. We love to unite with you all of our parent leaders and community members to keep it growing. Please understand that we're all working together to make this successful and sustainable. And we have so much more to say, but we're running out of time. And just want to let you know that we are in close communication with Aisha George and her team to deal with this Healing Ambassador program, because it's a lot, but we're going to do it together. So thank you so much, Aisha. I'll hand it back over to you.
Absolutely, Rashida. Thank you. And so I just want to also just kind of connect the importance of the Family and Community Wellness Initiative. So this initiative is for parents, right? This is for parents to receive some great training around trauma-informed care. And on this call, at least what I've heard so far, is that there's a lot of trauma associated right now with heading back to school. So this is a perfect space for all of the PAPTAs that are included in this program to select a parent from their school, to receive some training in this, to be able to address all of these issues that we're hearing, right? Like this is literally what that parent will be doing. They will be able to take this information, look at their school community and say, we have a lot of X going on, right? Whatever that is. And then working with the school community, working with the PA or PTA to address those issues and to figure out what are some resources, what are ways as we as a school can deal with those issues. So I just want to kind of connect the importance of making sure that your school selects someone. So we have done over 60 presentations as a team across the 5 boroughs. I will send either Monday or Tuesday to the executive board the breakdown of what it looks like so far as registered people and parent coordinators as well, because the parent coordinators at these schools can participate as well. So parents, you will not be alone on an island, right? Like you will be with someone, hopefully the parent coordinator can connect with you. We are working with Rashida's group, the Healing Centered Working Group, to figure out sustainability and what it can look like for the parent. Like, what is that, the gap space between finishing the training and the parent actually facilitating, right? The workshop. So I'm sure you all know, but if you don't know, the requirements is that the parent attends 4 workshops, which are this summer, 2 in June, 2 in July. And then the expectation is that they facilitate a workshop come the fall, right? And it's all around trauma-informed care, some great TREP work, trauma-responsive educational practices, a group out of Chicago, which is doing this great work that they will be learning. As of right now, between now and the actual date, we all know is June 18th, which is coming up, right? So if you know your school is on the list and you haven't gotten it to us, please click the link and send your school over. We're gonna do some very targeted outreach in the next 2 weeks. So if you get a call from someone on our team, please answer it or just go ahead and register right now. I know we're kind of in a rush, but I didn't know, Marco, what you wanted to do. I will send you guys the list, the update of what numbers look like and parent coordinators who signed up by early next week. I will drop in the chat the flyer in Spanish and English. I have them in all of the languages. If anyone needs them, please reach out. Me, Rashida, we can absolutely help you. If there's any questions, or Marco, I understand if there's no time, they can also.
No. Well, we made you start late, so we can give you a little bit more, even though that means we send the next people. But I think the main issue for you is to be able to reach as many parents as you can and have every school have a representative, correct? That's actually ultimate, that's the goal, right? You need to have a representative for every school. But only the schools that are selected, or also other schools can be part of it, even though they are not part of the official.
Right. So yeah, so there are very specific schools that are on this list right now, right? This is private funding, and we absolutely have to stick to what the criteria is associated with distributing these fundings. But there may be opportunity, right? We're working towards that deadline, but there may be opportunity for other schools. So if people are interested, definitely, keep my email on speed dial. Don't quite email me yet, but we will get out more information as we get closer.
Okay, cool. So maybe this is all we need for now, right? And maybe you want to, okay.
Yeah, and I've spoke to a lot of you. I think I've been to every President's Council meeting, and like I said, we've done over 60 presentations, but we asked you to use your May meeting. So my expectation is in this week, at least, that most of you have had your May meeting, and you are now going to input.
We can have a June meeting.
Right. Or if you have an early June meeting, absolutely, this is your week to get it done and get the names into the system. If you are having issues, please email me. I am here for help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aisha. And thank you also for helping us getting kind of back on track. Okay, Liz, I think Liz from the Food Advocate, you can take the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Marco. Thank you for having us here. I'm Liz Ackles, the Executive Director of Community Food Advocates, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Lilia Ariza, she just waved, and Agnes Molnar to help with this presentation. So just wanted to, it's good, I see a lot of familiar faces. It's good to see everyone here. Community Food Advocates and the Lunch for Learning campaign have had great partnerships. Hey, Marie, have had great partnerships over the years, fighting for universal free school lunch, fighting for increased funding for cafeteria redesign. We, as an organization, one of the areas that we focus on significantly is, for anyone who doesn't know us, is striving to make the school food program the best it possibly can be, where it's valued in the schools, students enjoy it, everyone values it, and wants to be in the cafeteria eating. So that's like a little bit about us. I'm here though to talk about pandemic EBT, and we have about a half an hour, and I trust Marco, you keep us on time. Well, also
like
to
I
say,
have done a good job so far, right?
Well, and also just want to make sure to acknowledge there are many members of CPAC that are leaders in the Lunch for Learning coalition and have been for many years. So, and many are on the call here. So just want to make sure to recognize everyone. Anna Lilia, did you want to say something and get the slides going?
Yeah, no, I just need permission to share the slides. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Can we just share permission to share slides?
Yeah, just 1 second, yeah.
Or I could share the slides with you, Mark.
No, just a moment.
Okay. Happy to pass on the responsibility. There it is. Thank you.
Okay, you got it?
I got it.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, terrific. So I'm assuming most people are somewhat familiar with pandemic EBT. And so it is basically a federal program that was put in place at the early on in the pandemic. We could go to the next one. Thank you. Early on in the pandemic to help to cover costs of meals that students would otherwise eat in schools while they're home because of the pandemic. So we had a first round. So it covers meals while students are learning remotely. It's a federal program. And just to be clear, it's administered by the state, by a state agency called OTDA. Those are the initials, the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance. The DOE has nothing to do with administering the program, nor do we. So this is a big program. It provides significant relief to families. It's a national program. And part of the thing that the federal government realized as schools were closing down and as the pandemic has continued, that having people needed funds to help cover the cost of meals when their children are at home. So the important things about pandemic EBT, so I'll talk about timing, we'll get into timing, but pandemic EBT is for every single New York City public school student. And just to give the background on this, nationally, the program is for every student who is eligible for free or reduced price lunch nationally. Since 2017, New York City public schools have universal free school lunch. So that means every single New York City student, regardless of their income, is eligible and will get pandemic EBT, right? So there is no identification, there are no qualifications other than being a New York City public school student. So everyone will get this regardless of income, immigration status. There is no application. It's automatically issued. So no application, no documentation, nothing will be asked. And significantly, it doesn't affect eligibility for other public benefits or for immigration status doesn't impact public charge. If folks have questions, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A, but you can also put things in the chat, and we won't necessarily answer them each one by one, but we'll, Agnes is monitoring the chat, and things that come up, we'll make sure to answer. So last year was the first round of pandemic EBT. It's a brand new program. The state had to get the whole mechanism up and running in a very short period of time. So basically it was $420 for covering the months of March through June, since every student was out fully remote for that time period. It was roughly $5.70 a day, something like that. I'm giving you rough. And it was distributed either to an existing PEBT card for folks who are currently enrolled in SNAP, otherwise known as food stamps, or public assistance, and or directly onto the Medicaid card, not the insurance card, but the actual Medicaid benefits card. And then for folks who aren't currently enrolled in any of those programs, there was a new PEBT card issued for each student. So almost all the benefits have been distributed, but we've also heard from folks where there have been issues that have come up, and we've worked to help resolve them through the state. But really almost all of those benefits people should have gotten. Some folks didn't realize early on, if they're currently receiving SNAP, that those funds landed on the SNAP card. It was when other changes were happening at the same time. So lots of people received it and weren't sure at that point, because it was very early, what it was or how much it was. Okay, so we're going into round 2 of pandemic EBT. And as you can see, so the thing to say is this was extended through this school year. So there's another 2 rounds coming. And I just want to be clear, we know that this next round is supposed to start in June. And that will cover the months from September, the beginning of this current school year, to March of 2021, I'm sorry. So we'll get into how the amounts work, but there's going to be a first distribution. And remember, this is each child. If you have more than one child in the household that's a public school student, it's per child. Okay, so the first round, we're still waiting on when exactly they're going to start in June, but that's what we've heard. They're beginning the distribution in June, but we don't know exactly when. The second distribution is for April through June 2021, so through the end of the school year. And that will end up being distributed later in the summer, early fall. So the good news about this program is it's funds directly into households' pockets for groceries. It's for everyone. Everyone should spend them. It doesn't benefit anyone if they're not used. The challenge is that, this is supposed to, we're in June, and this is covering the school year retroactively. So it didn't help for the immediate need at that time. So that's where we are at the moment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the amounts. So unlike before, where every student got the same amount of money, this round, it depends on whether the child was learning in a fully remote or a blended setting. So just to give a sense of the calculations behind this, it's for this year, it's $6.82 per child per day, right? So given that, for households who, where the children's, in a given month, their primary mode of learning was hybrid. So it's something like 12 days or, Anna Lilia, help me.
Yes, it's between 1 to 12 days.
1 to 12 days of hybrid. It's going to be $82 for the month. So that's $6.82 multiplied by those days, and that will be $82 for a month. And it could be that a child is hybrid 1 month and goes into, or remote 1 month, and then, so it could switch by month to month. The other is for children whose predominant learning mode was fully remote, it's $132 for the month. So just as an example, if a child was doing blended learning for all 10 months, the parent, they would receive a combination of both of those distributions. Combining the distributions will be $820 for that child. Okay. I see there is a hand up.
You want to finish the presentation first, and then we take questions, unless
that's good. If there's something also specific that I'm not clear about here, put it in the chat and we'll come back to it too. Like this way we can have a glance at it. Okay, so that's the beginning. I'm turning it over now to Anna Lilia.
Hi, yeah, so can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. So how our family is going to get this money. So this is going to go into an existing card for families, the same card that students got their spring 2020 PBT benefit on from last spring. If they spent that money, if they were pinning the card and spent the money, then they'll get it on that same card. Any student who currently who's enrolled in schools and has an active SNAP or public assistance card, it'll go into that card directly. So again, as Liz was mentioning, a lot of the times last year, families didn't notice that those funds were in there. So we do encourage people to check their balance, because you may not get any other notification, and that those funds are not going to be specifically labeled or assigned as PBT on your benefits, on your existing benefit card, but you'll see the amount in there. And so a lot of the times that was the major confusion that we found last year, is that people just didn't realize why those additional funds were in there. I'm also going to add that it's good for a year. So your benefits, whatever PBT funds you get, if you have 3 or 4 children, you have a full year to use them as they come in. So that's for anybody with either an existing PBT card or an existing SNAP or public assistance card. A new card will be mailed for anybody who's new to the NYC DOE and is currently not enrolled in any SNAP or public assistance program. A new card will be mailed to anybody who may have been mailed the PBT card last year, but didn't redeem it, didn't spend the funds. And anybody who maybe got it on their SNAP card or their CPAC card last year, but currently does not have an active account. If they're currently no longer receiving SNAP, or their CPAC card is no longer active, then you'll get a new PBT card mailed. So we are definitely encouraging everyone to hold on to their PBT card from last year. If you've lost or discarded it because you exhausted the funds, you can call the EBT customer service line and order a new card. That number is 1-888-328-6399. And we do ask everyone to be patient. The state is handling this. They're issuing benefits to over 2 million students. And to date, we are resolving some issues from last spring. So we ask everyone to be patient, to give the state some time to start rolling that out. We have been also told that they are prioritizing New York City. So, but again, we'll keep everyone updated on that. But that's another good piece of news that we were told. They are prioritizing New York City. And then there are additional expansions. As Liz said, the program had been very successful last year. And so they extended it this year for this entire school year, and then they expanded the eligibility criteria as well. So for 2020-2021 school year, it's also going to include some children in childcare settings who are enrolled in SNAP and have been impacted by closure. So that's a 0 to 5 age group. But so it's a federal program and it's administered by the state. The state submitted the plan for school-age children, and there hasn't yet been a submission or an approval of a plan for this younger group, for the children who are in some childcare setting. So we are waiting for that, but we do get a lot of questions about younger students who are not in school. You'll see some benefit for them as well. We're just going to have that information later once the state has an approved plan. There's also been an expansion for summer PEBT. So that'll be, again, all New York City public school students. And again, we're waiting for more details on what that plan is going to look like. We have our page that we're trying to keep updated with all the latest information that we know on PEBT. So we welcome you to visit it. The bit.ly's there, and if someone can put in the chat, that'd be great. Otherwise, I can put it when we're done, but bit.ly/CFA PBT, it is case sensitive. And the state PBT helpline numbers there for you as well. That's 1-833-452-0096. So just, we also have additional information where you can use your PBT card, basically any grocer, to buy almost any food products, as long as it's not prepared or hot food. Here are some examples, but if you want to see the full exhaustive list of what items you could buy, we have the bit.ly at /snap foods, and then where you would be able to use it, bit.ly/snap stores. You could use it at green markets, you could use it at farmer markets, you can get health bucks redeemed through when you're using your PBT card anywhere that accepts SNAP or EBT benefits. If you have any other questions or you haven't received your spring 2020 funds, we encourage you to email us with your student name, schools, date of birth, the address. If March of 2020 your mailing address was different than it is now, we would need verification of both addresses so that they can send it to the correct address and they can verify that that's the correct child. Yeah, so if you have any questions about last year's, just please reach out to us. That's pretty much it. I'm going to pause for questions.
Great, thank you. Francis actually has her hand up.
Yeah, sorry about that, Liz. I was just putting my hand up to be the first one to ask a question. That's
okay.
I have a question. Being that, you know, the schools, even though we opted to go back in, we were sometimes forced to stay home because of a COVID case. Who is keeping track of that? Because when we're home, obviously we're remote. Who will be keeping track of that, or will we be just getting, like if we were in school full time? That's first question. And the second part of my question is that a lot of the food now that they're giving in school is cold, and a lot of parents are forced to bring, the kids don't want to eat it. So a lot of parents have to now bring more food to school because the food being provided is not really warm enough for them to want to eat it. So that's another question that I have as well. Thank you.
Okay. So the Department of Education is keeping track of the days in school. That's their only role in this process. It is, you know, the enrollment, the number of days, and mode. And they're sharing that with the state ed department, who's sharing it with the state agency that's actually doing the administration of the program. So that's how that's happening. And there was a second part of the question.
About the food being cold, and that now parents have to, you know, spend more money giving their kids lunch because their kids are not eating in school.
So we've been told, we do a lot of work with Office of Food and Nutrition Services, and we've been told by the head of Office of Food and Nutrition Services that if there is a school that wants, at this stage, that it took them a while because they were doing the to-go meals, they were doing the in-school meals. So it took them a while to kind of, as more and more students got back. But my understanding at this point is if a principal request or a school food manager put in the request for hot meals, that there is the ability to do hot meals in school at this point. So what I would encourage you is to either speak with the principal, speak with the school food manager, and speak with the principal and make that request. If that isn't happening, feel free to reach out and we can, you know, but those would be the first steps. And we have been assured that That's and that should be an option available in schools.
Liz, can I go back to the model,
Yes.
Okay, so as Liz was talking about this, right? So if students are considered, the state had to come up with what's called simplifying assumptions to make this process as easy as possible for all 2 million students. So the simplifying assumption for that, the definitions, the way that hybrid or blended learning is being defined for this program is 1 to 12 days of remote learning. Anybody who does 13 or more days of remote learning in 1 month would be considered fully remote for that month. So that's the additional clarification on that. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Said that much more clearly. Thanks.
Cool. I don't see a hand raised, but there were a few questions in the chat. Partially they were answered or possibly already. I know one was like, if people did not get anything yet, what do they do? Which I guess is either ask you guys for help, or you also, I think, share the hotline directly on the state.
Yeah, and we want to be really clear. Nothing has yet been distributed for this this round. So people shouldn't expect to have received anything yet. We're part of what we've been waiting for several weeks now is notice from the state exactly when the funds are going to start hitting folks' accounts, and it's going to be rolling, right? Because as Anna Lilia mentioned, they're doing this out to 2 million families throughout the state, with over 1 million in New York City, right? So it's going to be in a rolling process. We've been waiting to get the exact date, waiting for their press release about when that exact date is going to kick out. And we don't have that yet, but we know it's supposed to be coming soon. We thought it would be already in June. What we will do, and I know several people both are involved in Lunch for Learning, and also I know many people are on our Community Food Advocates mailing list. Once that happens, we will send out notice about when we anticipate they will be, but it would be premature at this time and confusing to folks. So we want to be super, super clear about that. Nothing has been distributed yet for this round. And we're anticipating in the next few weeks. Agnes, you're on mute.
I just want to clarify that, I just lost my thought, that first of all, the pre-K and the 3K, if they are in public schools now and they are eating the national school lunch, they should be getting the benefit like they did last year. It's only if they were under a different food program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP, they will only be getting the benefit. They didn't get the benefit last year. They were not eligible. This year, they will be eligible if they are in SNAP families, if they're receiving SNAP. So that's all we know, and we don't know when that's going to start.
The plan hasn't been approved yet for that or for the summer PEBT.
Right. And I also want to say that the helpline, if you didn't get your money last year, we understand they're not answering those questions. So I think we are the only resource at this moment to answer and get information about last year's benefits that you haven't received. So email us at info@foodadvocates.org. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So I see no hands raised. Don't know if you want to close it in any way. Otherwise, I guess we can be done with this topic. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to say that next week on Wednesday, we will be having a larger PEBT webinar session. So if anybody wants to join us next Wednesday, that'll be fully in English. And then on Thursday, we'll have a full Spanish webinar going into these details. We can share the flyer with you guys so you guys can share it out with this group or anyone else. So I'll share that afterwards.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you as
Liz,
always.
Anna, Lilia, Agnes.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you. So let's move back to one thing that we tabled earlier, which is this document. This was produced, I believe, and please guys correct me if I'm wrong, was produced by the high school committee and is effectively a recommendation guide to best practices in participation to DLT meetings. Am I correct? People, members of the high school committee, can you confirm?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. That's it.
Fantastic. So this is the draft of what the high school committee sent to us, and we would like to adopt this document as part of the recommendation that CPACs have. Do you want, maybe let me just leave it alone. Everybody should have been able to read it. We actually shared it last month, but if let's just give a couple of minutes for people if they want to release it. I'm gonna leave it on the screen like this for a couple of minutes and then move it, scroll it down to the next half of the page. It's only one page.
I don't see it on the screen, Marco.
No, I might share.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Mr. Chair, it is on the screen. See it.
Okay, who was now seeing it?
Dr. Cody mentioned she is not seeing it on the screen.
Oh.
My apologies, I was on a different screen, sorry.
All right, no problem. Okay, gonna scroll down to the next app.
Marco, this document was emailed to us, right?
Yes, but it was emailed last month, not before this meeting. It was emailed before the meeting in May.
Okay, no, because I remember looking at this already. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Okay, I think we all got enough time to have a look. So I hope we wanted to approve. Is there a motion to approve this document?
Motion to approve.
Cool. That was Rashida, right? District 4.
Yes.
Okay, any second?
Doris Canella seconds, District 12.
Great. We don't need to go by roll call. I think if is there anybody that objects to adopt this document? Okay, I hear nobody, so we adopt this document. Thank you. Grisel, earlier you were a very passionate and were discussing issue from your district in particular, or possibly that relate to the city at large. I'm not sure if you have desire to go back to it and kind of explain a little bit more. What are your thoughts on what's going on? And then we can see how CPAC can elevate those issues.
Yeah, so during our town hall with the chancellor last night, the team had mentioned that because our schools in the Bronx are overutilized and there's just no spacing at all. So the example was that if the school had like a total of 100 students and 60 are currently hybrid, because all available space is being used, and that they're not able to attend 5 days a week due to the 3 fee and 6 fee rule. So how are the other 40 supposed to attend to come back to 5 days a week in September? And then how did that decision of putting or coming up with putting students in community spaces or different outlets came into play? Were there table talk conversations? Were parents a part of that conversation? There are families who go through domestic violence. Has been a lot of shootings in the areas, some certain areas in the Bronx, even in broad daylight. So these things are something that parents are really concerned about. As far as COVID, like, will there be nurses inside of these facilities that they plan to, or they're thinking of putting these kids into? Are these other options? And then IEP services, how would those students are we separating those kids? And also we're still concerned with the fact that we don't have social workers in all schools. And so that's another issue. And the thought of like how soon parents will be informed, because we only have 2-3 months in the summer, and for them to come up with a plan within 2 to 3 months just seems too fast. So I don't know. And then if parents don't agree with these options and they don't send their kids to school, will they be penalized? And so these are things that it's just it's frustrating for me, because I myself, I've suffered through, I've had COVID, I have anxiety, I have all these things. And I'm not the only parent is like really worried. And so if you're putting these kids in spaces and stuff, I care about the safety of these children. So that's where that's why I was just emotional earlier.
Yeah. No, thank you, Griselle. You were emotional because it's an emotional issue. There is nothing. So I think, I know for sure that many districts, if not all districts, have the same issues, and many parents in the city feel the same way. I see, Lourdes, you raise your hand. Go ahead.
And also piggybacking off from what Giselle says, it is it is somewhat of a disappointment, the fact that, the Bronx parents are not being listened to. It is very obvious that Bronx parents are reluctant in sending the children back in September, that no option is unacceptable. Even when we were given the opportunity to go back into the building, maybe nobody decided to go back, but just a few. And we continue to send out letters. We continue to ask for, direct forums, and they continue to disregard us. The Bronx is very reluctant, and I know the Bronx will get in a lot of trouble because the parents in the Bronx are ready to just say no to sending our children in September. Just putting it out there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there are plenty of parents also out in the other borders of the city. So what if maybe you, Lourdes, Griselle, and whoever else is interested, drafts a resolution that CPAC can then adopt and send to the Chancellor on this issue?
We will be happy to do so, right, Griselle?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah.
Great. And I see Shirley with the hand raised.
And I just want to remind, after this discussion, we are supposed to discuss PA and PTA elections to get a pulse between, with the President's councils, how the PA, PTA elections are doing in their district.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, we can do that in a moment. Yeah. So do you guys feel that the issue that Griselle raised is addressed by having a resolution? Is there anything else that we should address, that we should discuss on that topic?
Yes, I'm sorry, I can't get to raise my hand, if I may.
Go ahead. It's in the other
yeah.
screen, right?
And the pineapple soda. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is what we get for multitasking, the new way of living now. The issue that Griselle raises is not only in the Bronx, it's in several places, in several schools. And I'm not gonna keep beating a very live horse, but just know that when we get together, and we have to get together with DOE to talk about how we're going to reopen. And, I don't like to go backwards, but this should have been done a while ago as they were reopening. Thank you, thank you. We should have been discussing 21, 22 long before now. And we need to find ways to make sure that DOE is held accountable. And the way DOE is being held accountable is us having a conversation and sitting down at the table with them at the same time, and having the unions there, the partnering agencies there, having parent leaders there, having the discussion at the same time. We take our information back to our respective constituents, have them consider it, and then bring the feedback back. This isolated, putting out whatever they put out when they want to put it out, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. So I just encourage you all to get rid of the egos, get rid of the whatever issues y'all got going on, and support the citywide leadership team already, and stop playing. Because we need to sit down and have these discussions. It's about our children. Put the foolishness to the side. It is about our children. And the educational stakeholders need to be sitting down at the table, having this discussion, representatives, and having a serious discussion and deliberating. We may not always agree, but our voices need to be heard. And it needs to be heard together. As Donald Kanye said at the February meeting, he said, "Oh, I don't know everything. The people at Central don't know everything." You don't. Parent leaders don't know everything. Unions don't know everything. But guess what? When we sit down at the table together we can. So we need to stop playing around with the egos or whatever issues people got going on, and support the citywide leadership team so that voices of parent leaders, unions, the partnering agencies, DOE, we all come together and sit down and act like we got some doggone sense. And I'm gonna repeat it again, like my board of director always says, children will be fine once adults grow up. Now let's grow up and sit down at the table and have a conversation. Thank you.
I'm sorry, if I could just real quick. I don't think it's that the parents are not sitting at the table. The point of it, all of this, is the parents are sitting at the table, but what we're saying is not being heard. So they'll sit there, they pretend they're listening to us, but they're not hearing what we're saying to them. This time around, they didn't even ask us. There was no poll, there were no surveys, there was nothing that was given to a parent to ask them, what do you think we should do? At every single DLT, at every single President's Council that I attended, I brought up the same things, because at my President's Council meetings, the parents are voicing a lot of concerns about the reopenings, not being given the option. Parents are sincerely considering homeschooling their children because they're not comfortable. So I don't think it's that we're not sitting at the table. The point is the people that are sitting at the table with us are not listening. So just to clarify, because I do understand and I totally respect what you have to say, Dr. Jackie, but we're sitting.
You're
Okay, guys, let's keep on the raising hands.
You're misunderstanding the
go
point,
ahead.
but we'll talk about it at another time. You're completely misunderstanding the point about us being able to sit at the table to discuss.
Aisha, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. As far as like what Grisel was saying in the Bronx, like I agree with a lot of parents still feel uncomfortable, even in Manhattan. In Harlem, like 60% of the parents kids are still remote. All of mine are still remote. So I would gladly love to help work on that with you if you want, because I think that's a big issue with the reopening. I think we all need to just talk to them, be like, we still have issues with that. I'm a big, I don't have a problem with walking in the building personally, but I have a problem with my son who is too young for the vaccine, asthma, like all the issues. I wouldn't even think about him getting the vaccine, going back in the building. So I think that's a conversation we need to have. I don't think we need a whole nother structure put in place to talk to them. CPAC, we need to talk to them till we're blue in the face, if need be necessary, to explain to them why we're uncomfortable sending our children back, because we represent those parents, those families, like you said, that are ready to homeschool kids. To, pull them out. They already know what it feels like to lose thousands upon thousands of children. And they're gonna do it again. They're gonna lose more than that if they force everyone back in the building. So I think we need to work with DOE till we're blue in the face, till they're blue in the face, till the mayor's blue in the face, till we get our point across. And if we don't, we don't. We try until we can't try no more, because it's for our children. It's not for us. It's for our children. Until they get it, this is what we're working for. That's just how I feel.
Great, thank you, Aisha. Lourdes.
Besides, thank you, the person that just spoke. The more the merrier. We welcome your support. The more everyone that in the citywide who wants to talk about this and wants to join us, get this letter, please do join us, because we need our word to be heard. And just like everyone else said, I agree with Doris. It's not about our voices not being at the table. It's just that we're not being listened to. We're not listening to, and also, it's our children. It's not their children. Okay, we're just giving them the opportunity to be theirs for a few hours. We're trusting them with our children's health and safety, and yet, without our communication, without our voices being heard, how is that possible? Last time I checked, the DNA does not show that the mayor is the father of my child. So he has no rights whatsoever to take any decisions on my child's safety or whatever that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes. Francis.
I think that I'm hearing everything and I understand everything that's being said. I just think that, we have a lot of resources at our feet. We have our SLTs, we have our CECs, and each district has their own. I think that we need to fire them up first before we bring it upon to CPAC. I think we have to look into all those resources that pertain directly to our schools. I just want to put that out there.
Cool. Okay, so Lourdes and Grisel, you guys are in charge. Of course, Aisha, you can also join them, and other people can also join them. We should draft it quickly and then maybe even have a special meeting to approve it. And I see Sadie very politely raised her hand. So, and since you're still here, I love to hear what you have to say, Sadie.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to come off mute to say that I hear you, that I want to acknowledge that this happened.
I think part of the harm is sometimes we say like, well, but this is why we think it's good for kids. And that aside, I just want to acknowledge that, you know, it's really difficult for parents to find out what's going on with their kids from the mayor. And it's really difficult for staffers and principals and superintendents to also hear that announcement made after it was made publicly. It really caused a lot of harm. It's put a lot on principals and superintendents table that, you know, they've already been dealing with. And so I don't know, I guess I didn't want to just glaze over and sort of say, I hear you, without acknowledging that, you know, many families chose remote for many different reasons. Recent poll nationally that says that Black students found that they were more welcomed in classrooms and got more teacher support than they were in classrooms. Now that's national. And I'm not making an argument that it's remote forever. I think I can't wait for my kid to be back in the building and, you know, with kids every single day. But I just want to acknowledge that many families kept their kids home because we're an and I'm in this too, are in intergenerational households. We kept them home because there's fear of the pandemic and because of cultural responsive practices. There are a lot of valid reasons that the mayor and the chancellor will listen to, have listened to, and should listen to. And I want to just continue to lift up my commitment to make sure that the system is better set up to not only listen to families, but incorporate family and parent and caregiver voice in policy development and policy implementation. We are not there yet, but that's the North Star that I'm going and that I know my team members at the Family and Community Empowerment Office are driving towards. It is a difficult one. Our system is not built for it, but with your advocacy, with your ferocity, with your approach, I think we can, and a shared approach, because you're not alone. CPAC is not alone. CEC's felt this way. We had put together a school reopening community roundtable, and they also found out this way, right? So they're issuing a comment as well. It's just, it was really difficult. And so I just wanted to lift up that you guys are talking to someone who is listening and actively working on how to create a system that is set up to listen to families, that's not reliant on one or two, you know, cool people who believe in this work, but that actually it's sort of embedded, and that's the long game. But I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm in a partnership with you guys. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sadie. Guys, now we are like 23 minutes past our deadline, so I say we should close this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Marco, we won't be able to. I'm sorry. I have to. We have to talk about PAPTA actions real quick.
Okay.
To see if anybody's having difficulty.
The district check-ins, please, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So you're right. You said it earlier. So we wanted to kind of get the temperature on the status of PAPTA's elections, right? Correct, Shirley?
Correct. And if anybody, specifically if people are having difficulties, PAPTAs are having difficulties of meeting June 25th deadline, and where they stand, how many will be completed by June 25th?
So right now for District 12, we've got 10 PAPTAs in place out of 33. PTAs have scheduled their meetings, but they're not meeting quorum. There's one school I know for a fact they've already have their third attempt scheduled. So we're working, we're plugging away, but right now we only have 10 confirmed out of 33.
District 17 have 20 confirmed.
Okay, let's maybe go around by following the numbers. So District 1 has issues. I know that a number of schools, even schools that normally have no problems, have this year decided that they're going to move their election in September because they didn't have people running. A number of the schools, there are still a number that had their election and everything like that, but I know it is an issue, and I'm probably not the only one. Leonard left, so we don't know District 2. District 3.
You got till 1 o'clock. Okay.
Oh, District 3 is good, I see in the chat. 4. I just say the number, maybe
He has a
somebody.
thumbs up.
What? Oh, it's okay. What? I didn't realize you were like, that's fine.
D4 is good, Marco and Jimmy.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Oh, ask her time's up. That's what I didn't. I didn't understand that. 5. Aisha.
Yeah, sorry. Of the 23 schools in my district, I think all of them have scheduled except for 3, and 3 are this or next week. 3 still haven't picked it. No, 4 still haven't scheduled it yet, and the rest have already done their elections.
So that looks pretty good anyway, in general.
Yes. Yes, one still, they've had a problem. They haven't had quorum. They've done it twice, haven't had quorum, but they're scheduled for next week. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. Great. Thank you. 6.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I also happen to be a CC member, and at the parent leadership coordinator announced yesterday at the calendar meeting that 16 completed their elections, 15 are pending, and 7 are rescheduled. That's it.
Okay. Not bad anyway. Looks like 7. Not sure if this is 7 is
7 is not in attendance. Marco.
Yeah. 8.
Marco, I'm sorry for interrupting. I have to run. I have to open a meeting at
26.
We did all the elections, so we're good.
Okay, good.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye. 9.
Unfortunately, we only have 3 schools that have done their elections. I have to keep pushing to get these other schools to start their elections, and I know that we're June 10th, and it's unfortunate, but we may need assistance. So I'll connect separately.
Okay, thank you. 11. No, 10. Sorry, I skipped 10.
Hi, that's okay. We only held, it's probably a handful that has been done, and we're still waiting for the certification to be submitted, so we still have a lot to go.
Thank you. 11. I think Miriam left already. Yes. 12.
Like I said, we only have at last check-in with FLC, we have 10 complete out of 33. Everyone else is scheduled, but some have had multiple opportunities and quorum is not being met.
Okay, cool. 13.
Hi, we have, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry.
Hi. We have about 75 to 80% done. The other 20 to 25%, either they've already scheduled to have them done, and or this is a repeat for them. They haven't, like, again, a lot of people are not being, a lot of parents, it's difficult. A lot of parents are overwhelmed, so it's hard to get parents to commit to actually taking one of these positions. So that's what I think is happening in some of the schools, and some of the parents are really vocal about that too. Cool. So even the President's Council this last time, we had a hard time getting people who wanted to take the positions.
Thank you. 14. I think she had to go already. 15. Don't think somebody's here. 16. 17. Veronica, you still here?
We have all scheduled, and we have 20 done so far. So we have like 11 or 12 to go.
Right. I don't think 18 and 19 are still here. So 20.
Hey, Marco,
Yeah, 20 out of 39 schools, I'm going to say maybe 15 have done it. We're having a president council election tomorrow at our general meeting. So hopefully they'll get more of a number, but it seems a lot of parents don't want to come forward. They don't want to run. They don't want to Zoom. It's a lot of different, or there's principal pushback. There's a lot of different things going on that I'm trying to work on. If I need help, I will reach out to you guys. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Randy, 21?
I have 27 out of 28 completed, and the last
Wow.
one is actually today. So I will have 100%.
Wow.
I hope at 2 o'clock today. So
you rock, Randy.
we try really hard. It's a
To
joint
rock,
effort.
good. 22, Sabina?
Hi, how are you? So we're I think a little above 70% done, and we have a few this week and next week. And I think the issues are really the same as what others have mentioned. It's really been tough to get parents on board, just to run, let alone vote. That's been the hardest part is getting parents to want to step up into these positions. But we're almost done. We're chugging along. So.
Cool. Josh, I think left 23, unless maybe I just cannot see him, but yeah, I think he left.
Yes.
Mati, are you still here? From 24? No, I think she had to go as well. Francis? I think Francis left too. And Cecilia, 26 gave the report before. I don't think 27 is here. 28, Jessica?
We're just chugging along. I think that we have quite a few elections scheduled for next week, but I'm hoping that we have no issues.
Fantastic. 29?
Hi. So we have about 50% done of our 35 schools. We've had quite a few quorum issues as well and had to reschedule, but as of now, everything has been scheduled for as of June. So.
Cool. I don't think we have 30. We don't have 31. Is Jazzy still here? Yes, she is. Jazzy, 32? Maybe she's not here. Andrea, you pasted things, but you want to just state it? You pasted it on the chat.
I have 8 to 10 schools done virtually every day. I have about 2 or 3 elections scheduled per day for the rest of June. Some of them are redos because we lack quorum in some cases. I did an election was trying to attempt to do election this morning while I was on the CPAC meeting, and no parents showed up at this particular school. So these are the type of problems we're having. But every year, D75 is never completed before the end of the school year. This is before the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Cecilia, you still around? Brooklyn High School, I think. Oh yeah, you're here.
Hi. Okay. We have one school that reached out to us asking for assistance to conduct the election. Aside from that, we didn't hear anything. The other thing is because we need all these elections to be done, so we have the presidents in order to conduct our own elections for the President's Council. We are having a special election. A special meeting for June 24th to accommodate that. Because that's just one day before the end of the school year. We're hoping that that is going to hopefully catch more people. We need a quorum. That's all we have.
Great, thank you. Lourdes from Bronx High School.
Yes. Well, we have 3 that I have already check with the Bronx High School Federation for support. We have conducted a few others with CPAC help. Mine was done just the other day on the 8th. So, so far out of 140 something schools, that's all I have heard from.
Okay.
Thank you.
Manhattan High School.
We're moving forward really good. I'm glad to say there's a lot of elections, PA elections happening next week, actually. But I would dare to say that about at least half of the schools had their elections already between April and May. And I don't have exact numbers yet, but like I said, several are having their elections next week. I want to throw out there that this is exactly what CPAC should be focusing on, supporting President's Council so we can support our PA PTAs. There's a list of schools from this school year that did not have a PA or PTA listed. So I made sure I reached out to them first, and I reached out to the parent coordinators, and I'm happy to say that those schools that didn't have, they had their elections, they have a full up and running PA, PTA, or PTO, whatever their title is. And, I encourage president, council presidents, or executive board members to reach out to parent coordinators and ask if, you can come and help in any way, and come to the meetings and help do an announcement to encourage parents to be part of their PA, PTAs, whatever it takes. So that's good. And I just wanted to ask Marco, as far as roll call is concerned, and Jimmy, how about calling on high schools first and doing the numbers backwards and shaking it up a little bit sometimes, starting with 75.
We'll randomize it. I see Jazzy actually came back. So Jazzy, you want to report a moment? You see, we're already doing it to randomize it.
Hi, Marco. So I have hosted all of the elections in my district except for
you host them all?
Yes, I did.
Hosted them all?
Yes, sir. Except for the 2 schools that I ran for, I had a different parent member run those, and I trained them to do that for me. So I have only 3 elections left. One is tomorrow, and the other 2 are on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Cool. Wow, you're almost as good as Randy.
That's my best bud. Watch out.
Shirley.
Good afternoon. For Queens High School President's Councils, the majority are doing well. They are scheduled. Those who had issues or anticipated issues, they notified us early. I reminded the high schoolers that they need to have this done by June 25th, and they try to do it early. So a lot of them did their elections in May. By the 17th, I think everyone should be completed by June 17th. So we're in good shape. I know where they stand, and those who need help, we're helping them.
Great, thank you. And I know Aaron actually joined us earlier, but I think he left in the meantime.
He actually did, Mr. Chair. I was going to mention that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So looks like it's a mix. That looks like there are a few districts that might need some help, and while there are others that are like totally on top of it. A motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I second.
Cool. All in favor, say hi and
Hi.
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 All right, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Happy summer, everyone. Happy summer. Stay safe.
Oh, don't forget that we're
Mr. Chair, we meet in July.
Yeah, we're gonna
Please
meet.
mention we meet in July.
In
Oh
July
yeah, we meet
and
during the
August.
summer, but you can still have a good summer.
Yeah. You better have a
Enjoy.
good.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
All right. Bye-bye.